Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me this evening, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And I didn't know what to do today because I did my AMA yesterday, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something that I'm interested in. Hopefully you will be too. People are talking about Ukraine a lot. They have been for a while and still are right now. And I get it. And they should. It's important for many reasons. But people are talking about I was talking about what was going to happen in Ukraine literally years ago. And I did a show on it about a month ago or so. And I gave you receipts from years ago when I expressed what was going to happen with Ukraine and why I didn't want us being involved with it. And when I said it, people just got mad at me and they called me Putin puppet, blah, 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 Putin puppet. You're a bad guy. All that stuff is what I got. Right. And I get it. But I said that we're not going to do the right thing by them. There is no chance they're going to be able to win this thing. There's no chance we are going to put in the amount of anything required for them to win this thing. And people kept doing the same thing as always and just trying their best to virtue signal. But you have to support and put the flag and and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, great. You want to do that. Okay. I want to think about something if you would. Some of you, I want you to really think about this for a second if I could. All right. I'm going to make up a story right now. And I want you, if you can, in your mind, to think about this actually happening. And what would you do if you were watching this unfold? All right. In this story, there is a very bad cop. I'm not anti-cop, as you know, but in this case, there is a bad cop. Bad cops exist. And in this case, there is a very bad cop. This very bad cop is stationed in Queens. He is very bad. He has been violent and aggressive and harm people, beat people up. He's been, punished by the sanctioned by the police force in the past, but never really convicted. Kind of got away with it because he knows some people, political issues. This bad cop's a terribly bad cop. Everyone knows it. They got to put him somewhere, so they put him in a place that's kind of safe. Where I live in Astoria, Queens, which relatively compared to other areas is relatively safe. Like, not that bad. Let's put him there. So that's where he is. So I'm stuck with this cop in my neighborhood. We know he's a bad cop. Well, I'm on my phone, walking the street, going to get something to eat or whatever, running an errand, and the bad cop sees me. He sees me on the phone. He grabs my phone. I say, "What are you doing?" Takes it, smashes it on the ground. I go, "That's my phone. What's wrong with you?" And he goes, "Oh, you getting uppity?" He pulls out his pistol, doesn't fire. Pistol puts me in the nose, bam, smashes, breaks my nose, busted open, smash it. My nose is broken. I'm at permanent scarring. He has trashed my face, eye socket problems. He smashed as hard as he can. I dropped to the ground. Right? So he smashed my phone, smashed my face. I'm on the ground. He goes, you were being disrespectful to me. You were trying to attack me and harm me. I'm taking you to jail. I'm arresting you right now, and I'm bringing you to Rikers Island. You're going to be arrested. It's Friday afternoon, so I can't be, there's no chance that all the judges go home. I'm going to be now in Rikers Island for the weekend. For the weekend, in the most violent jail in the world, with a busted, broken nose, and no friends in Rikers Island. And for those who don't know, in Rikers Island, people get gang RAPED'd as a thing in Rikers. So there's a chance that I will be that and permanently scarred. So I stumble to my feet and someone says, "Don't let him do it, Larry. Fight back. He's the bad cop." Would you, if it was you, and you were watching this happen, knowing that I'm going to have permanent scarring on my face and may have trouble seeing and smelling the rest of my life, knowing I've lost my property too on top of that, not going to give me that back. That's finished. It's racked. My phone's wrecked. Knowing that I may literally go into a prison, a jail for 2 years, and I may be assaulted in that way, that might happen to me. Odds are high that I'm going to be permanently damaged for the rest of my life because of this. Would you say, "Larry, fight. Fight the cop. Run away"? Would you say that? Would you say, "Damn, Larry, that is some real bad luck. Oh my God, I don't know why that happened to you, but dude, don't you dare fight. It's not worth it. Just let it go. If you fight that cop, he might shoot you. He might kill you. Other cops going to come. You're going to be in trouble. You're now for sure going to be in jail forever now, because now they're going to say you shot the cop, hurt the cop, resisting arrest. Forget it. Just go to jail. Deal with it. Deal with it deal with the damage next week. Hope you can sue him. Hope you get out of this. Get a lawyer. Would you tell me that? Or would you say, no, he's a bad cop. You got to fight him. No, Larry, here's a bat. Hit him with that. Larry, here's a knife. Stab him with that. Would you say that? If you were some righteous person who wanted to see my life end, you would say that. But if you actually cared about me, you go, Larry, don't fight. That's what I said to Ukrainians. And they called me a Putin puppet. That's what I said to Ukrainians. You're just screwed. Russia isn't right to invade you. Of course not. But you got stuck. As I got stuck with that cop in my neighborhood, you got stuck with Russia in your neighborhood. I didn't make it happen. It's not my fault, but it's there. Ain't nothing happening to Russia. No one's going to insult them. No one's going to stop them. That's nothing going to happen to that cop. Nothing going to happen to Russia. And yes, Russia took a bunch of land, and they're going to keep it. You're not getting it back. Just like I'm getting permanent damage in my face. Permanent. I'm never going to get my eyesight back, or my perfect eyesight back. Never get I got perfect eyesight. Never get that back. My smell, never going to get back. Ever. Never going to get back. But I'm just screwed. Just like Ukraine was just screwed. And I know that sounds bad. People don't like, oh, Larry, you Putin puppet, but they're wrong. You can say wrong all you want. Ukraine was already in a bad spot, and now is in a far worse spot than it would have been then. Far worse. No matter what you think about Russia, no matter what you think Russia's bad or good, whatever you think, does not matter is my point. Nobody was going to stop Russia. That wasn't the thing. No one was going to stop that guy. Ukraine's fighting only made things worse. Like if I had fought that cop, things would be worse. We don't know exactly, but there's something like, I'm not sure exactly how much, but there's something like, we can't be 100% sure, but there's something like over 80,000 Ukrainians have been killed, over 400,000 wounded. We don't know exactly what those numbers are, but it's something like that, higher than that. And Russians too. There's over 100,000 Russians killed and over 500,000 wounded. Who knows the exact number? It's in that area somewhere. But who cares if I'm off by this and someone's going to fight? No, Larry, it's only this. Who gives a shit? It's terrible. It's tens of thousands. Did I say millions? Hope I didn't say millions. Thousands. I said thousands, right? If I said millions, I meant thousands. So it's 80,000 killed, 400,000 wounded, more than that. 100,000 on the Russian side, 500,000 wounded, more than that. I'm a little bit less than more. Who gives a shit? It's terrible. For what? Not just that. Ukrainians have lost, give or take, 15 million people out of their country. 15 million people. How are you going to recover from that? How are you going to do that? How could you? You can't. It's only worse. It's only, whether you think Russia is good or bad or whatever, you don't care. It doesn't matter. It was not going to change. Nothing was going to happen to Putin. Nothing was. I told you all that years ago. Instead of going, Larry actually cares with the people. Larry's Putin puppet. Silly. Now Trump is starting to fix things. I'm sorry. That's not true. Trump is trying to fix things. And you might go, well, he doesn't care about this. He's a Putin puppet, whatever you think. I don't care. I don't care. You can do your righteousness and yelling and screaming if you want to. Fine. I don't really care. Difference is, I would like those people to stop dying. Biden didn't care. Biden follows that old adage, or Biden did, and so did people before him, follow that same adage. It's dangerous to be an American ally. I'm sorry, it's dangerous to be an American enemy, fatal to be an ally. Boy, yeah, the Ukrainians figuring that one out. Boy, they figuring that one out the hard way. They are figuring that shit out the hard way. Yes. So now you might say, well, wait a minute. Why in the world would Trump try to fix this? Why would he even care? Well, here's one important reason. He is trying to alienate China from Russia. That's one of his goals. What happened with the war, because of the idiocy that we did with this stupid war, which we should have never, ever gotten into, ever. It was dumb to get involved in this war. Totally dumb, but we did. And when we got involved, what do? We pushed Russia even closer to China. Russia is the third largest oil producer in the world. It's us first, Saudi Arabia, Russia. Well, they're sanctioned, Larry. Yeah, they're sanctioned. Okay, great. But they're literally sending 22 billion euros worth of oil into the EU. The EU is giving them $22 billion a year. But they're supporting Ukraine. What? So you're giving Russia $22 billion a year but supporting Ukraine? And what else is sanctioned is going out through China or going out through Turkey. Turkey and China have become even closer. That's the plan. And more people now hate America. More people are trying to de-dollarize. So Trump at least recognized that, or his people. Again, I don't know how much Trump knows over these people. I don't care, whatever. He's like, we'll do this. We'll make that happen. So what does that mean? Trump said something Trump sometimes actually just says the truth right out loud, and people are surprised. When he went to Zelensky, he said, "You don't have the cards." He said that openly. We saw it. He's not wrong. He got no cards. He got no cards. Well, guess who else has almost no cards? America. Not many cards. He said that too. He said he has to wait on Putin because he doesn't have all the cards. That's true. He doesn't. Why do you think he's giving up so much? Why do you think people are so mad at him? He's ready to give up territory. Okay. Trump is going to give up Ukrainian territory. You might go, how can he do that? Because that's how the world works. And you may not like that. I don't like it either. It's how it works. America and Russia decide where the borders are. Why? Because they're the big boys and they just decide this. Might makes right. That's how the world works. You might go, but the UN or the whatever, or Geneva Convention, as I've told you before, none of that matters. That's just stuff people make up and talk about like news and stuff. Doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares. The UN is whatever. Nobody cares. We just do stuff. That's how it works. No one's going to fight him. So America and Russia will decide where the line is. Ukraine will go, okay, that's what will happen. That's how I know it. You're a liar. This is unfair. Yes, and that's true, right? Yes, and that's true. That's how it works. Not just that. He's going to end the sanctions on Russia. And you might go, wait a minute, but that's rewarding Putin. Yes. And I know this sucks. I'm just being, I'm telling you what's going to happen. He's going to end the sanctions on Putin. Yeah, but he invaded. He was back. Yes. And as I told you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can be mad if you want to, and yell Slav Ukraine if you want to. It's not going to change anything. It's not. He's going to roll back the troops. He's going to take a money. There's like 100,000 or so troops in Europe, something like that. American troops. Going to pull those guys back. Yep, do that too. And he's going to say that Ukraine can't be in NATO. That's what Trump's going to do. Guaranteed. Do all of those. He has to. If he doesn't, Putin goes, I don't care. I'll keep fighting. And you're going to say, but Larry, the Russians are losing a bunch of people. That's true. They are. I just told you. 500,000 wounded, give or take, or whatever. Over 100,000 killed. Yes. And they just gained 5 million people by all the territory they took. Net benefit for them. Larry, this sounds terrible. I know. Not that I'm happy about it. It's the way the world works. Larry, you sound like you are a little bit bitter. I am, because I got my ass kicked because of system 2. Everything happened to me wasn't fair. And it happened. And there's nothing to do about it. And I got to deal with it. And I got to fight through it. Yes, happens all the time. That's how it works. So virtue signaling to keep the Ukrainians fighting makes you feel good, but kills more people for no reason. And throws a bunch of money and time and energy into a war that cannot be won, will never be won. And I told you that 3 years ago, and people didn't believe me. And I got receipts. It was never going to be won. Could not be won. Was not a thing. And people wanted to just virtue signal all day long. Your virtue signaling got over 200,000 people killed and over 1 million wounded. That's what your virtue signaling did. And you are proud of yourself. I know you are. Because Slava Ukraine, awesome. Awesome. Good for you. 200,000 dead for no reason. Nothing changed. And 1 million wounded. For what? So you can pretend that some lines matter on imaginary lines matter. They're just made up by the 5 top countries on the planet. They decide. The top 5 These borders matter. Sovereignty matters until America says no, until Russia says no, until China says no. They're sovereign, like made by God, until Russia, China, or Russia say no. Then they're not anymore. I don't mean to be cruel. I don't mean to be mean. I mean to be realistic. I mean to be realistic. That's what's actually happening, right? That's what's actually happening. You might go, but Larry, the beginnings and the reasons and about, does any of it matter now? I guess it does if you're going to maybe learn something, I guess. But does it matter to the people right now, the average soldiers on the ground right now, who are having their arms and legs blown off, who are being hunted down by drones? Does it matter to them? It doesn't. To family members, all those 200,000 dead men, they were all somebody's son. They were somebody's son. A mother or a father lost that person, or some of them had their own families. It was somebody's husband, somebody's dad. All gone. Because we want to be righteous and because Putin's bad. There's lots of bad people in the world, tons of them. They're all over the place. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Do I have to lose 1 million people every time that happens? Do I have to have 1 million people lose their arms and legs every time we have a bad guy out there? I hope not. I hope not. Well, then, Larry, why don't we just stop the war? That's a great question. Great question. I love that quote. Stop the war. Well, why should Putin stop if he doesn't get what he wants? He has the advantage. And Trump said it, openly said it. The EU knows it. The EU knows it. The Turks are considering walking in and fixing this. Yes, the Turks are like, hey, we just had a great victory in Syria. Our southern border's pretty much as good as it's been in a long time. Why don't we become peacekeepers? I'm not joking. The Turks consider becoming peacekeepers now. And to do that, though, Russia has said any NATO troops in Ukraine will be considered the enemy and we will attack them. That's what Russia has said openly. We will attack them. So what would Turkey have to do? Get out of NATO. Turkey could bail on NATO. People trying to throw Turkey out of NATO for years. Turkey bails on NATO. Then that's more about being in Syria anymore. It could just do whatever it wants in Syria because it's no longer part of NATO. And it puts troops in Ukraine as a peacekeeping force, non-NATO, a non-NATO peacekeeping force. Turks now are a regional power in the Middle East completely. Totally. I warned you about Turkey last year where they were going. Erdogan's going there. You might say, but wait a minute. Doesn't Putin want a good peace? Why? You know what Putin learned when Trump won? When Biden won and then when Trump won? You know what Putin learned? He learned America is not stable. That's what he learned. I'm not joking. He had a relationship that he was happy with Trump, hated his relationship with Biden. Biden called him a killer. Blah, 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 blah. Now it comes in, Trump's his friend again. What happens when Trump loses in 4 years? Well, Trump won't be, well, in theory, Trump's not running it next year, in 4 years. But whatever. What happens when the next guy comes in? He changed his mind? Putin knows that. Why do you think Putin likes dictators? Because he's an evil man? No, because they're stable. I'm not joking. He knows Erdogan ain't going nowhere. He knows she ain't going nowhere. He's not going anywhere. Putin's staying in charge of Russia till they put him in a box. He knows that. He ain't going nowhere. He don't care about that. He knows she is staying in charge of China till they put him in a box. He knows Erdogan is staying in charge of Turkey till they put him in a box. He knows that. So if he can work with these guys, he's good for years. But Trump, 4 years, and then some other knucklehead shows up. We have proven that we will just change based upon whatever leader comes in. So he doesn't care about that. He's like, I'll make a deal with Trump, then whatever. Harris comes in, or whoever's the next person to come in, whatever comes in, and goes, no, change it all. I know you haven't heard people say this. I know you haven't. Because they're giving you the regular line. I'm giving you how things actually work. And if you think I'm making it up, I do provide receipts, and you see I'm right like 99% of the time. That's how it actually works. 99% of the time I'm right. And I'll be right in this one too. I do want to talk about what Trump is also trying to achieve, which you can see Trump is really trying to make a deal. He really is. I'm going to give him that. This I will give him. He is actually trying to make a deal. Now, the newest thing is, I'll say here, Zelensky now is agreeing to end martial law in May. It looks like Trump and Putin are going to meet in May. And it looks like there may be elections. He's agreeing to elections in October. That's a massive change. Why? Because Zelensky knows he can't stay. He can't stay. That's not a thing. He cannot stay. He's losing the war. He can't stay. So he's got to go. The question is, where does he go? Where does he go? But he's got to go. So he's going to have an election. That's going to happen. That's how it works, right? That is how it works. What is going to happen. I know some of you are like, whoa. Trump is also going to give up those 4 places I told you, because if he doesn't, Putin will keep the battle going. If Putin keeps going, he will eventually say, and this is the worst thing that could possibly happen for Ukraine. If this war does not end this year, I think it will. I do. I think Trump is going to do what he can to make it end. If it does not end this year, Putin is going to push for Odessa, Kharkiv, and Dnipro. He's going to go for all of them. He's going to say they're all Russian now, and no one's going to stop him. That's the problem. No one's going to stop him. Now, wait a minute, Larry. What about the military-industrial complex? Oh, yeah. We've made over $200 billion over this in the past 3 years. Over two. I don't know how much. It's over 200. I don't know what that number is. Trump says it's like almost 5. Maybe that. I don't know if that's true. I am sure it's over 200. That I'm sure of. I don't know. So somewhere between 2 and 5. That's what I will say. It's over 200 billion. That's a lot of money. Where am I get that money from? Now, here's the worst part. As Russia keeps moving, Ukraine's in a worse and worse spot. Ukraine's population has already crashed. So the odds of them being able to being any type of serious, anything other than a backwater now for the next 30 years is virtually impossible. Unless they bring nothing but migrants in. They will have to lose whatever it is to be Ukrainian, because they'll have to bring in so many migrants. And I mean, they will have to bring in, I'm not joking, they will have to bring in millions of migrants for a country that only has 25 million people. They will have to bring in millions of migrants if they want to become any kind of powerhouse. Well, then they become, I don't know, some country that isn't really a country anymore. But they can do it. That's their chance. And Russia would be happy for that. Do it. Hard to have nationalism when half your 30 of your population comes from some other country, and it's probably citizens of the country. Unless you create a system to where anyone can become a citizen, in which case, what does it mean to become Ukrainian if everyone's a citizen? That's your other options you have. They're in trouble. Not just that, all their minerals they have, a chunk of them, at least a third, are actually right now under Russian control. So the Russians are going to get out of this. They're in a very bad spot. If they don't get, why do you think Zelensky is fighting so hard for security guarantees? Because if he doesn't have security guarantees, the Ukrainians, the brain drain that left Ukraine, will not come back. Why would they? Why would savvy people come back? Why would you build out all the mines? Building out a mine takes time, years, right, to do it. Well, if I think the Russians are going to attack next week, well, then why would I do it? That's why he has to have that. That's why he's talking that trash. All right, let me grab a couple comments, and then I will go into a video I want to bring up, which will make some of you angry. But every time I bring up that, someone's going to be upset. So yes. All righty. Kim says, wow, Larry, I never watched the links you post pre-live show. About 35 minutes in. This is something every U.S. citizen should be managed to listen to. Yes, it's brilliant. It is brilliant. I'm going to cover some of it. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Kim, for watching it. Yes. Yep, absolutely. And then they blamed it all on Putin. Correct. You can say whatever you want. This is not all Putin's fault. Is the invasion decision his fault? Yes. 100%. He made a decision to invade. That's his fault, regardless of what you say. But that doesn't make it all of a sudden only his fault, right? So Vivek says Scott Horton's pretty good in this issue. No. Scott Horton is amazing on this issue. Scott Horton is a genius. He is brilliant. People don't like him because he talks similar to the way I talk, but he takes more of a righteous stance. I don't. He takes more of a righteous stance on it. I just go, this is how it is. I'm not taking a side on who's righteous or not. And that makes people angry because they want me to take a side. So yeah, and I don't. I'm just like, this is how it is. How can we make it good now? Scott takes a side, but he's brilliant. He has all the data. He has all the receipts. If you want to know about this kind of stuff, read any of his books. He gave me a signed copy of one of his books. I want his books. I gotta find it. He gave me I forgot which one. He's written many books. He gave me one. He gave me a signed copy. One of them. I've met him many times. He's absolutely brilliant on this. Yes. Mike says, "Oh my Ukraine, Putin is interested in ceasefire. Zelensky reversed on rare earth minerals, but rejects U.S. nuke admin. Same, if not more, guarantees versus Russia. EU wants forever war versus U.S. attached. Putin's interested in ceasefire. That's not true. Not accurate. He's not interested in ceasefire. Putin's interested in a ceasefire on certain parts of infrastructure because it affects him more than Ukraine's. But no, he's not interested in ceasefire. He's interested in getting the 4 spots he wants, and again, he wants Trump to publicly say that those 4 places, if I get the right, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and the other one. It's 4 of them. I forgot the other one. And maybe even Crimea. He wants him to say those are Russian. That's what he actually wants. If Trump says that publicly, this war will end. This war will end. But if he says that, he's just sold Ukrainians out and he's pissed off all the Ukrainians. Trump might do it. Trump might do it. So yes, the Europeans, the Europeans don't want forever war. They want to validate all their struggle. That's their issue. They want to validate their struggle, right? Dave says, responds to you, Mike, he says, I don't think Europe wants forever wars. I think Europe doesn't want Putin coming back for seconds and thirds. He's not. He's not. Let me be very full with all you people who say this. Again, you'll be mad at me. I don't care. There is literally 0 chance. And when I say 0, I don't mean 1%. 0 chance Russia marches on Europe. That is a fantasy horse shit that anyone who says that is not paying attention. And I hear it all the time. I hear from the media. I hear from the pun. Okay, let me be very clear. Russia's GDP is $2 trillion. $2 trillion. The EU's GDP, 19 trillion. So just on cash, you got no shot. 19 trillion to 2. That does not include us. You count America, it's another 27 trillion. So 27 trillion, if you hit America, plus 19 trillion against 2 trillion. But Larry, they got a war machine. Okay, total Russians, 140 million. Europeans, 450 million. So you outgun 3-1 in people. You outgun 9-1 in cash, and you're going to fight and take us over? What planet do you live on? And they have nuclear weapons, right? So do the French and the British. What planet are you on? It's never going to, it's not a thing. And if you add America, that's not 340 million people. Now you outgun 5-1 in population. And you outgun what? 27, 19, what's that? 40, 46 to 2. You outgun 23-1 in GDP. It is an utter fantasy. It's utter fantasy. I'm so shocked with some people I know go, he's going to roll over Europe. It's taken, this initial invasion was 2014. It's taken him 11 years to gain 20% of Ukraine. Let me say it again. It's taken him 11 years to gain 20% of Ukraine. If he keeps that up, in 50 years, he'll gain Ukraine. So every 50 years, he'll take a country. Boy, is he rolling them right up. Ooh, what's wrong with people? I don't mean to be flippant. No, I do mean to be flippant. It's insane. Never going to happen. In 0 chance. Not 1%, 0. But I hear it all the time. He's going to rebuild the Russian Empire. He can't take Ukraine. He can't take Ukraine. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm getting all uppity. I got triggered. Mike, you didn't tell me to stop. I got triggered. Anyway, but yes, it's absolutely nuts. It's not going to happen. It's not a thing. It's just made up. It was never going to happen. And it's just, this was a way to be very full with you. And this is going to come out later. You will see this. This will come out. Ukraine was simply another way of having a place for the military industrial complex to keep cranking up dollars, right? Afghanistan was going to go down. Let's get Ukraine up and running. That's all this was. They thought it might be Syria, maybe, but Syria was not a good bet. And they were right. They were correct on that. Syria was not a good bet. Initially, if you remember, we had some Americans in Syria. Like, ooh, maybe Syria could be the next thing. Maybe that's it. And they realized, oh, that's not going to work. And the Turks were right there. And the Turks were like, that ain't going to work. Turks were like, that's not going to work. Remember, the Turks are the second largest army in the EU. And it's bloodied. They fight. The Turks are always at war with somebody. So they have a bloodied, big army. They decide what happens in Syria, as we found out. I told you the Turks decide that, and they did. So we were like, we can't do Syria. We could do Ukraine, though. That'd be great. We'll get the Europeans on board. They'll throw their money at it. It'll be great. And so far, they've been right. They have been right. And it isn't even over. They can get 4 or 5 years out of this. They got 20 out of Afghanistan. Like, what, 15 out of Iraq, something like that? Is that right? 15 out of Iraq? 12 out of, whatever they got out of Iraq. 20 out of Afghanistan. They got 10 out of Vietnam. They're at least 4 out of this one. That's tons of cash. They've been breaking it in. Look at them go. Look at them go. I know I sound terrible, but it's true. Let me pull up this if I could. Kim, you watched a little bit, so that's amazing. I'm glad you did. Most time people don't, so it's okay. I will comment on it a bit here too. This is Jeffrey Sachs, an economist who knows even more about this than most people do. And the EU actually invited him to talk. So he did. And it's brilliant.
Michael, thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for the chance to be together and to think together. This is indeed a complicated and fast-changing time and a very dangerous one. So we really need clarity of thought. I'm especially interested in our conversation, so I'll try to be as succinct and clear as I can be. I've watched the events very close up in Eastern Europe, the former Soviet Union, Russia.
He's been around a lot of this stuff.
Very closely for the last 36 years. I was an advisor to the Polish government in 1989.
They all trust him.
To President Gorbachev in 1990 and 90.
He's just going down his resume. Cheyenne says, Larry doesn't take a righteous stance. He takes a I'm right, I have a seat stance. Accurate. That's true. I know I'm right in this. There's just no way I'm incorrect. And if anybody wants to take a bet out, I'm taking bets because I know I'm right. That's how this works. This has happened a bazillion times. They always tell us this all the time. If Ukraine falls, the rest falls. It's called the domino theory. They lied to us about Vietnam. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us about Kuwait. They lied to us about all of us. It was always lied to us about Korea. It was always a lie. The domino theory is not a thing. They made that up to make you afraid. It's not a thing. It's never been true.
A lot of things firsthand. I've been in touch with Russian leaders for more than 30 years. I know the American political leadership close up. Our
you guys know them.
Previous Secretary of Treasury was my macroeconomics teacher. 50.
That's good. Mike says, Larry, there is zero guarantee to prevent any war. That's true. I never said there was. I just said he's never going to go in. He's never going to over Europe. I didn't say he wouldn't go to war over somebody, but he's not going to war to take over Europe. That's never going to happen. Any amount. Zelensky's looking for victory, not peace. Not true. Zelensky used to. He has recognized he's going to have it. That's why he's agreed to ending martial law. That's why he's agreed to elections in October. So that is no longer true. That was true years ago, not anymore.
And I'll include not only the Ukraine crisis, but Serbia, 1999, the wars in the Middle East, including the understanding of the events that have befallen Europe in many contexts. And I'll include not only the Ukraine
He's spending
crisis,
more time talking about this.
But Serbia, 1999.
Yep. Dave says, Larry, one, Putin is ex-KGB. True. Fomenting revolutions is his thing. True. He creates crisis. True. In Ukraine and other countries to give an excuse to invade those countries. What countries? You mean the local places nearby? Yeah, like Georgia and stuff. Yep. But those are all former Soviet republics. The problem is he doesn't have the manpower to take over the countries. That's the issue. He physically cannot do it. That's why it will not happen. He physically cannot do it. Shan goes, the domino theory is lie after lie after lie. Oh, accurate. That's the domino theory. It's a bunch of lies. Yes, absolutely.
More than 40 years now. What happened, more than 30 years, I should say, to be more precise. The United States came to the view, especially in 1990, 91, and then with the end of the Soviet Union, that the US now ran the world. And that the US did not have to heed anybody's views, red lines, concerns, security viewpoints, or any international obligations or any UN framework. I'm sorry.
And that's accurate. America decides whatever it wants to do, whenever it wants to do it. That's why so many of the people around the world don't like us. You will hear all the time, and this is literally just propaganda. They hate us for our freedoms. Utter garbage, never been true. Anytime someone says that, you know they've been watching too much Fox News. That is not a thing. That is literally just made up. That is stuff people just made up. There's not one person, zero people in the Middle East wake up in the morning and go, oh, man, I'm pissed off. Why? America's got freedoms. No one says that. That's not a thing. They made that up. Never happened. They do wake up and go, oh, I'm mad at America. Why? They've been bombing us for 20 years. They killed my brother, my cousin, my dad, my whatever. Yeah, that's why they hate us. Or do they go, oh man, I hate America. Why? Because I can't get anything done because they keep sanctioning my country when I'm some citizen who doesn't care about this, and I'm stuck in my country where I have a dictator, and now America's punishing me because my dictator is doing something bad. That's why they hate us. That's the reason why they hate us.
To put it so plainly, but I do want you to understand. I tried very hard in 1991 to get help for Gorbachev, who I think was the greatest statesman of our modern time.
You don't hear that often.
I recently read the archived memo of the National Security Council discussion of my proposal, how they completely dismissed it and laughed it off the table when I said that the United States should help the Soviet Union in financial stabilization and in making its reforms. And the memo documents, including some of my former colleagues at Harvard in particular, saying we will do the minimum.
Larry. I'm gonna see if I can put him on a faster speed. He does talk slow as hell.
To prevent.
That is a smart move. Let me see if I can do it. I'm gonna see if I can figure it out now. That may be easy for some of you, but I'm gonna make sure I get it right. I don't want to screw this up. And let me find my speed, and I'm gonna go to 1.5. There we go. A little bit. He is definitely slow. Grace says, not for any gotcha reasons, but I love to see you interview a neocon. They're still out there. They're still power. They'll just insult me. What will happen is, what they'll do is they'll talk their trash and then say something in some format. They will say, why do you hate America? They may not say those words. They might, but they'll say something like that. Why do you hate America? Or you're a communist. It will fall. The difference between the left and the right. The left will start with the insult. The right will end with the insult. That's how that works. The left starts with the insult. The left starts with Putin puppet. That's how the left starts. The right will end with, you hate America. You're a Marxist or whatever. That's how that will end. So it will end with insults. I've been through this a lot. When you go through the actual data and you show them how it works, it ends with insults. That's how it works. Because at one point I let them know, look, you're just making stuff up. And they go, oh, no, you're whatever. It ends that way always. Neocons always end, again, the left starts with insults. The right ends with insults. That's how it works. It always goes to insult. Because once they've lost the argument, they just insult. It's just easy that way. So, yeah. So how do you know what it is? See, he's saying that he said, go help the Soviet Union when it collapsed, like we helped out Europe when they collapsed. And America said, why? Why? Yes. Dave says, another problem is Trumplicans like Tucker Carlson paint Zelensky as the aggressor in the conflict. To be forward, a lot of you don't like this because most people on this side decide that either guy is just a bad guy, period. Because when you don't like somebody, when you're against somebody, you paint them as a villain. And the villain has every single bad trait you could possibly have. Every single bad trait. So now Zelensky is a bad guy. To be very forward, he's actually like a guy who just wanted to like grift like everybody else, and he wound up becoming a victim, right? He just wanted to grift like all the rest. Like everybody grifting. Can I grift too? That's what Zelensky was about, to be forward with you, Dave. That was his, we all grifting, let's all grift. Can we all just grift? I'm grifting, you grifting, we're all grifting. Let's do that. We all grifting. Let's just grift. That's what he was thinking. And before you knew it, he became a pawn and a victim. Now, if he gets out of this with all his cash and he goes to Florida or he goes to Oman or wherever, Dubai, then he made out. He's not a victim anymore. He took his cash and went away. His goal was to grift. Well done. Good for you, right? If he ends up having an accident, if that happens, then he is clearly a victim, right? And you might go, but is he innocent? You can be a victim and not be innocent. I'm saying you can be both. He will be both.
The view became even more exaggerated. And I can name chapter and verse, but the view was we run the show.
Yep.
Cheney, Wolfowitz, and many other names that you
all of them
will have come to know.
Cheney and Wolfowitz, they are bad people.
Literally believed this is now a U.S. world, and we will do as we want. We will clean up from the former Soviet Union. We will take out any remaining allies. Countries like Iraq, Syria, and so forth will go. And we've been experiencing this foreign policy for now essentially 33 years.
And it has been horrible. Kim says insults are childish. Yes. Both sides guilty. Agreed. Yep. Absolutely. It's absolutely true. Yes. So Dave says Larry Trump will seize his non-existent house in Florida. I don't know if he has a house on it. He has property in Florida. I assume there's a house on it. I just don't know. But no, Trump will let him go. Why would he? Why? Trump can be petty, but only if like there's a problem. If Zelensky actually agrees and gives Trump his peace and he gets his peace prize, Trump won't be mad at Zelensky. If he goes to Florida or Dubai, Trump will be like, whatever, good luck, guy. Bye. He won't mess with him. Leave him alone. Why would he? There's no need to attack him. He got what he wanted. That's all. He got what he wanted.
Europe has paid a heavy price for this because Europe has not had any foreign policy during this period that I can figure out.
And this is a part that I want to bring up. There was a historian years ago who brought up the comparison of America being the Roman Empire and Europe being the Greeks within the Roman Empire. And Mike and I had a little back and forth on one of our last chats in one of the videos, and he was saying how he thought the Roman Empire was the Greek time period was one of the most important time periods for Western society. I agree with him completely. I think Mike's totally right. And then I brought up, well, what about the Romans? Right? The Romans kind of conquered the Greeks. What about that? Is one more important? And he said the Greeks are more important. And I agree. But the concept is, if those of you know, the Romans, what they were really good at more than anything else was military. They had probably the best infantry on the planet. I mean, maybe you could argue the Chinese at the time had another good one, but the Chinese simply had more of it. The Chinese had mass. The Romans didn't have mass. They had quality over quantity. So they just had a very good tactical infantry unit. Maybe not strategy, but tactical for sure in the world. Prior to that, the Greek phalanx was probably the best in the world. And then the Romans were just better at it. And the Romans conquered the Greeks. But in their conquest of the Greek Empire, to Mike's point, they absorbed a whole lot of culture, because what was great about the Romans, great, meaning powerful, was their martial, environment, their martial culture, culture of military power and the military prowess. That is what they were great at. The Greeks were great at all the other things, so they kind of absorbed it. Well, America, well, the reverse happened in that regard, right? The reverse happened. but America still has a lot of the culture from Europe, but it's the Roman Empire. Now, the Greeks within the Roman Empire didn't have their own foreign policy. They kind of followed whatever the emperor did, right? They were part of the empire. And his point is, Europe doesn't have its own foreign policy. Europe does kind of what America does. Why would it? Well, because America has a nuclear shield. America keeps a lot of money in. America controls it. It's an American empire. It's American hegemony. That's what it is. So, yeah, that's why.
No voice, no unity, no clarity, no European interests, only American loyalty.
There we go.
There were moments where there were disagreements and very.
Now, here's the worst part. He's saying this to the European leadership. That's pretty ballsy. He's saying you guys have been the lapdogs of America for about 60 years now. Well, more than that, right? 70 now, 70 years now. So, yeah, there's that. What are you going to do about that? That's what he's saying. Duke of X says, thank you for the $5. What are the odds the rest of the world agrees with Sachs and the U.S. is a bully united against the U.S.? That is actually happening. And the funny part is either Trump and or his people see that, right? Biden and or his people, because I don't know how much Biden knew. I don't know what he knew. I mean, he's going away. So did he know? I don't know. I'm going to say the Biden administration. How about that? The Biden administration, I'll say that. That's fair. Either didn't care or had so much hubris, they thought it didn't matter because it was obviously happening, right? The world is seeing the U.S. as a bully. That's obviously happening. The question is, did the Biden administration not care, right? Because, hey, we're super cool, right? Whatever. Or just had, we're hubris, we'll beat them, right? Whatever. Or was it about I don't know, was it about the money? Whatever. I don't know what it was, but didn't act, I should say, and made things worse. The sanctions against Russia, seizing their assets, made it worse. It sped up de-dollarization and put China and Russia closer than ever. That's a fact that happened. Now, the Trump administration, again, I don't know if it's Trump or his people, whatever it is. The Trump administration is going, this is a problem. We have to fix this. And sadly, Putin is going to benefit from this, right? Putin is going to benefit from this, and he knows it. That's why remember that story? He blew Trump off. He knows Putin is going to benefit from this. And you'd be like, I hate Putin. He's going to benefit because right now, Putin and Xi have a decent relationship, probably better than Russia and China have had in maybe forever. I don't know when they've had a better relationship. It's a good relationship right now relative to the past, right? It's very good. You're going to break that off? You got to offer Putin something really good. Really good. Right now, China and them Russia are working together better than they've ever worked together. They have much more of a connection when it comes to finances, a connection when it comes to trade, monetary policy. They're much more connected than they've ever been. And that's going to happen. Once that begins to happen and the rest of the world starts going, you know what? You're seeing right now, you're also seeing right now in Africa. I bring this up all the time. Why does this stuff matter? Because what you just said, Duke. The Africans, West Africans and East Africans are kicking the French out. You can't be here anymore. Kick the Americans out. They would have kicked us out. We're not in West Africa anymore. They kicked us out too. Who's there? The Wagner Group. The Wagner Group is, I think I feel comfortable saying it, the best mercenary force on the planet right now. Yeah, I think the best mercenary, I can't think of another one that's even better, that's anywhere near close. Yep, the Wagner Group is the best mercenary force on the planet right now. Run directly by the Russian government, right? I mean, officially not, but yes, right? Officially no, but yes. And they're right now in West Africa and East Africa. And what the Russians are doing well is they're not asking for control. They're asking for straight cash and trade deals. That's it. That's all. The French wanted to kind of francophile everybody, right? Americans want you to do what we say. The Russians say, I don't care what you do. I don't care who you fight. I don't care who your leaders are. I don't care if it's democracy. I don't care about none of that stuff. I don't care. I don't care. Just can we have money? And we don't care where the money comes from. So when the Africans go, we can pay you, but do you mind getting money from like blood diamonds and like kids working in mines? And Americans go, we don't like that. That makes us look bad. Russians go, oh, we don't care. Yeah, it's fine. Work them to death. And the West Africans go, oh, great. We can exploit our people. You don't care? And the Russians go, yeah, we exploit ours. We don't care. Chinese go, yeah, we exploit ours. We don't care. And I know it sounds horrible. I'm just being real. You can, if you think I'm making any of this up, a simple Google search down the road, do some YouTube videos, meet some people. You can find any source that you trust. You look for a source that you trust. You will find it telling exactly what I just said. You will find it, guaranteed. That is how it works. So yes, it is happening. The Trump administration is trying to stop it. I hope the rest of the world sees it and tries to stop it. The Europeans are in trouble because, to Sachs' point, they don't have their own foreign policy. So they don't want to be thought of as bullies either. So Sachs is saying, walk away. He's saying, walk away. That's what he's saying. By the way, you see Duke just did a super chat. Guys, if you want to, you can also. Super chat goes right to the front. So if you guys do want to super chat me, please do so you can super chat me if you want to. You can also Rumble rant me if you want to on Rumble. I'm also on Rumble if you want to. But no matter what, help this move forward. If you think this kind of stuff matters, if you think what I'm saying is important, I hope you do, then click the like button. It does matter. That button does matter. It gets Mr. Rhythm, Al Gore Rhythm. It gets him to show this to more people. If you can share this someplace, please share this. I can't tell you how much it matters if you share it someplace. Every share says, oh, this person liked it enough. They want to share it someplace else. So put it someplace else. It really does matter. If you can, please share it. If you're watching on Facebook, wherever you're watching it, please share it if you can. Super chat's always good. But the last piece I'm going to ask you here, follow me on Facebook, X, and Rumble. Go on that account, click the follow. Every follow matters. Please do so if you can. I'm also on Instagram, all those things. Yes, so please do that if you can. I appreciate it. All right, let me head over to Instagram. Speaking of that, something says, same people saying to overreach and stop Russia are the ones saying Doge is overreaching, cleaning up the government. Yeah, I think people pick and choose something that you pick and choose, right? Yeah, this one I like, so do it. This one I don't like, so don't do that. People pick and choose. I think you're right. He goes on to say, the world is unfair. Learn to pick your battles when you mature. Accurate statement. And sadly, most people just like to virtue signal. They don't want to pick a battle. You have to be perfect in everything. Driving me utterly, insanely crazy. Yes. All righty. Mike says, yes, Biden started a unification of Iran, China, Russia. Accurate. That has long-term problems with the U.S. Trump and the next two presidents will have to deal with the consequences of that. This is true. I think you're absolutely right. And the question becomes, how good are we going to be at it, Mike? And does the country get it? At the moment, they don't. Right? At this moment in time, the country does not get that at all. And will the Congress act accordingly? This is one of the reasons why I think, and people, again, you're not going to like this, but you'll understand why they're related. Why in the world would Trump be so okay with what I will say? I don't want to get myself in trouble on YouTube. AIPAC, that pack, and allowing that to happen and allowing Israel to do as it sees fit. Why? If he leaves that alone right now he may agree with that, but if he leaves it alone, then they don't put pressure on the congressmen and the senators that he needs to end this war. If he messes with them, they will mess with him, and he can't end this war. He has to try to end this Ukrainian war. And who's going to pay for that? GAZA. Larry, that's not fair. I've never said it's fair. You've never heard me walk in the door and go, let me tell you how fair things are. Never said that. I'd never forget, I had a health teacher when I was in high school named Mr. Moricelli. And if you were in my high school, you know who that guy was. He was a hardcore guy, football coach. And he did the health class. And I remember one class he said this. He said, when you were a baby and the doctor pulled you out of your ma and slapped you on your ass, who said life was going to be fair? Let me tell you, nobody. I never forgot that. And that was many years ago. Mr. Moricelli, if you're still alive, that stuck with me. So thank you. I learned something good in high school. Not many things, but that was one thing. I still remember that. So in any case, I've never said it was fair, and it's not. Mike, I think you are correct. The other question we're going to have is, are the next two presidents going to get it? Right? Are they going to get it? I don't know. I hope so. but we'll find out.
I think wonderful disagreements, especially in the last time of significance was 2003 in the Iraq War, when France and Germany said, we don't support the United States going around the UN Security Council for this war. That war, by the way, was directly concocted by Netanyahu and his colleagues in the US Pentagon. I'm not saying that it was a link or mutuality. I'm saying it was a direct war.
Look at that. He is saying publicly to Europeans that it was direct war. We are finding more and more of that. And this is why so many people get mad that that country controls so much of our foreign policy. And it does, right? It's true, right? We see it. He's saying it. You see it in the files being released. You see it everywhere. It's true. That's an accurate statement. Okay. So then why would Trump be accepting it now? Because he has to get Ukraine done. And that's not fair.
That was a war carried out for Israel. It was a war that Paul Wolfowitz and Douglas Feith coordinated with Netanyahu. And that was the last time that Europe had a voice. And I spoke with European leaders then, and they were very clear, and it was quite wonderful. Europe lost its voice entirely after that, but especially in 2008. Now, what happened after 1991 to get to 2008?
Now, here's the piece you may say, well, Larry, why do we care? Here's why we care. Because again, last time when Trump was president, what's one of the things that he did? Right? Is my camera off? Hold on. There we go. All right. What's one of the things that he did? He made the Europeans stop paying their fair share for NATO, right? Why didn't they? Why bother? It's American foreign policy. Americans do all that stuff. Absolutely. Yes. Mike says, I disagree. We didn't go to war in Iraq under order by Israel. This guy's misreading facts. Get there. No, he's not. He's not saying by order of. That's not what he's saying. You're going too far. He didn't say by order of. He said there was agreement with. He said Netanyahu was in agreement with us and worked together. That's 100% accurate. Now, not by order of that. So he didn't say that. I'm not saying that. But together, 100% yes. 100% yes. That absolutely happened. No doubt.
Is that the United States decided that unipolarity meant that NATO would enlarge somewhere from Brussels to Vladivostok, step by step.
For those of you who know, Vladivostok is the Russian port over by Japan. So it will just push it all the way over. That was the goal.
Would be no end to eastward enlargement of NATO. This would be the US unipolar world. If you play the game of Risk as a child, like I did, this is the US idea, to have the peace on every part of the board. Any place without a US military base is an enemy, basically.
That's why we have bases every place. That's why we have bases every place. That's the reason why. We have bases everywhere. Yes, absolutely.
Neutrality is a dirty word in the US political lexicon.
Oh, yes,
Perhaps
it is.
The dirtiest word. At least if you're an enemy, we know you're an enemy. If you are neutral, you're subversive.
Yes, he's not. That's why we fight the neutral countries. Yes, he's totally correct. Yes. Right. Again, what did Kissinger say? To be an enemy of America is dangerous. To be an ally is fatal.
Because then you're really against us, because you're not telling us. You're pretending to be neutral.
NATO.
So this was the mindset, and the decision was taken formally in 1994 when President Clinton signed off on NATO enlargement to the east.
Lunatic, how you doing, brother? You are here now. Says, oh, Benji testified and gave the playbook, Mike. He did. Yes, it's not a, there's no, if you do any homework, it's crystal clear. Now, Mike went to by order of. He didn't say that. I'm not saying that either. But yeah, it was totally together. Totally together. Yes. Duke says over 800 bases worldwide. I know I've been to many of them. And so has Mike, by the way. So yes, we do know that very well. Yes, absolutely.
You will recall that in February 7th, 1991, Hans-Dietrich Genscher and James Baker III spoke with Gorbachev. Genscher gave a press conference afterwards where he explained, NATO will not move eastward. We will not take advantage of the dissolution of the Warsaw.
Now, you will hear people say all the time that never happened. You will hear people say he never promised. That is an utter lie done by people who just don't mind us fighting Russians. We absolutely agree to it. There's data behind it. You can, if you look, you can actually find there's literally documentation on it. It absolutely happened. It absolutely happened. And we just said, I don't care. Why? Because I don't care. Because who's going to enforce it? Nobody. And that's what I keep saying. All these laws and rules, if nobody, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Lunatic, why are you trying to get me canceled? I'm not going to say it out loud. I'll show it. I'm not going to say it out loud. Lunatic, want me canceled? Why do it to you? Lunatic, thank you for the $2. By order of EpiPen and Ebony Males. See that? I didn't say it. Take that, Lunatic. Yes. Yes. By order of EpiPen and the Ebony Males. Yes. I'm not saying you're wrong on that, Lunatic, at all. Right? I'm not saying you're wrong. But again, this is a whole big game that makes any sense. Yes.
Act and understand that was in a juridical context, not a casual context. This was the end of World War II being negotiated for German reunification.
Yep.
And an agreement was made that NATO will not move 1 inch eastward. And it was explicit, and it is in countless documents. And just look up National Security Archive of George Washington University, and you can get dozens of documents. It's a website called What Gorbachev Heard About NATO. Take a look.
Literally a thing. And you will hear people say it. That never happened. That's made up. Utter lie.
Because everything you're told by the U.S. is a lie about this. But the archives are perfectly clear. So the decision was taken in 1994 to expand NATO all the way to Ukraine.
Yep.
This is a project. This is not one administration or another.
No, it isn't. This is, I say this all the time. I've been saying this for years. I am happy that Ronald Reagan was able to end the Cold War, right? I am happy about that. I'm not happy with everything that he did, but I will always try to give credit where credit is due. Excuse me. And one of the things he did well, that tear down this wall, that conversation, well done, outspending, forcing it down, Star Wars, all that stuff was brilliant. And I'm glad he ended the Cold War. But this is what Mike was talking about. He was saying, right, Trump and then the next 2 presidents will have to do it right. The next 2 presidents completely bungled it. Completely bungled it. Bush and Clinton were terrible. They lost the peace. Reagan won the Cold War, and Bush and Clinton lost the peace. They were incompetent, screwed up. He's exactly right. Clinton was terrible with this. Bush didn't have a choice because Bush only had 4 years, but he screwed it up too. But then so did Clinton. Clinton jumped right in. Clinton made things worse, right? Clinton was bombing Yugoslavia and Serbians are ethnically connected to Russians. That's the reason why World War I happened, because Serbians had problems with the Austrians and the Russians jumped on board. Did you learn nothing? Did you learn nothing from history? Yes, they learned nothing because it's a hubris. We're Americans, so we have magic powers. Well, not keto, only keto's magic. But we're just Americans, so we have all the power, so we can do whatever we want. It won't affect us. No. So Bush fumbled, and then Clinton just ran the football opposite direction and got a touchdown for the enemy. Just totally screwed it up. And then after that, there's no way of coming around it at that point. There's no way. And you also have an military industrial complex and a deep state that now is sold on this. So even if, I don't know if the first Bush wanted to fix it, I doubt it. But even if he did, he couldn't have done it. There's no way he could have done it. I mean, he had Wolfowitz with him and Cheney with him, who were all on board. So even if the second Bush wanted to, I don't know if he did. Even if he wanted to, he could have never done it. And Obama didn't care. Obama was on board too. He didn't care. Obama was bombing more people than anybody. Obama was bombing it like there's no tomorrow. Like there's no tomorrow. He was all about it. Bombing them all. He didn't care. And Trump was stuck with deep state. And Biden was raised in that. Biden was like, yeah, this is what we all doing. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Kim is saying, Clinton, I'm learning, was a disaster for president and a sneaky sock sucker. I'm not a Clinton fan. Now, to be clear, the man was savvy. He was a policy wonk, very smart, very clear, very smart, and smooth. He really was. I always give credit where credit is due. I don't do what everyone else does. If I don't like a guy, if I don't like somebody, right, I give him all the bad traits. No, there are some good things about Clinton. He has some good traits. He was very smart, very savvy, very smooth. But to your point, he was still a disaster of a president. Still true. I can still say he was a disaster of a president. but he was those other things also. He was those other things also. So yes.
This is a U.S. government project that started more than 30 years ago.
Yep.
In 1997, Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote The Grand Chessboard.
Yep. Lunatic says, thank you for the $5, Lunatic. I'm looking forward to our Rumble exclusive so we can speak freely. Yes. Maybe next Saturday is I'm thinking. Maybe. I'm not sure. One of those two. Maybe. I'm not sure. Economic, healthcare, veterans, foreign policy, self-accountability, a lunatic combo. Yes. I won't get canceled. Mike says, Bill was charismatic, well-spoken, smart. Yes. Selfish, true, and short-sighted in all policy. Also true. Yeah, I think that's true. So you can do both. He can be good and bad. I agree. Yes, you can be both. Absolutely.
That is not just musings of Mr. Brzezinski. That is the presentation of the decisions of the United States government explained to the public, which is how these books work. And the book describes the eastward enlargement of Europe and of NATO as simultaneous.
Yep. And I'm going to go over to Rumble now when I see Joel says the very worst thing Bill Clinton did to us was being a platform for Hillary to launch from. Nicely done. Nicely done. That's good. Yes. He then goes on to say, voted Perot. Nice. Very good. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, brother. You are not wrong. That's a good one. You're not wrong.
Events. And there's a good chapter in that book that says what.
Dave says, Larry, the problem with Serbia was they were trying to keep Yugoslavia united under Serbian control. They were killing Muslims in Bosnia. Yes, but that doesn't mean you had to bomb them. Right? That's the difference. Right? Doesn't mean you, okay, let me go next step. You're not wrong. What I'm saying is it doesn't mean the answer is bomb them while trying to expand NATO and pissing off and scaring the Russians even more. Right? That's what I'm saying. They're either one of two things. Let it go. Let them fix it themselves. That's option one. Option two, let the Europeans fix it, not us. It's a European issue. And look, the Balkans have been fighting for, okay, you put that out. Sorry, yeah. The former Yugoslavian countries were always fighting each other. Correct. The same thing happened. There was a dictator, Tito, was in charge of Yugoslavia, and he kept it together. Once he was ousted, they all fell apart. They were all being kept together by one single dictator, right? That's what Yugoslavia. For those of you who know, Yugoslavia, I talked about Ia yesterday. Ia means land of. Yugo is southern. Slavia, Slav is Slav people, and Ia is land. It is the land of the southern Slavs. That's what Yugoslavia comes from. That's what it comes from. Land of the southern Slavs. And so they put them all together. Well, that sounds good until that dictator goes away. Then they were like, well, I'm not Serbian, I'm Croatian. I'm not Croatian, I'm Bosnian. I'm Slovenian, right? All of a sudden, I'm not the same thing that you are. And you're right, they're fighting. That doesn't mean we had to bomb them. Doesn't mean we had to get involved. Particularly when the Russians don't like when you mess with Serbians. They have proven that. They started a world war over it. So you could probably not do that, is all I'm saying. Right? It doesn't have to be us who does this.
What will Russia do as Europe and NATO expand eastward? And I knew Zbigniew Brzezinski personally. He was very nice to me. I was advising Poland. He was a big help. He was a very nice and smart man, and he got everything wrong. So in 1997, he wrote in detail why Russia could do nothing but accede to the eastward expansion of NATO and Europe. In fact, he says the eastward expansion of Europe, and not just Europe, but NATO. This was a plan, a project.
So he writes it out saying that Russia will have to collapse. And everybody bought it.
And he explains how Russia will never align with China. Unthinkable. Russia will never align with Iran. Russia has no vocation other than the European vocation. So as Europe moves east, there's nothing Russia can do about it.
Utterly wrong.
So says yet another American strategist.
Yes.
Is it any question why we're in war all the time?
Yes.
Because
constantly.
One thing about America is we always know what our counterparts are going to do. And we always get it wrong.
Every time we're wrong.
And one reason we always get it wrong is that in game theory that the American strategists play, you don't actually talk to the other side. You just know what the other side's strategy is. It's wonderful. It saves so much time. You don't need any diplomacy.
None at all. We suck at that. Yes, we suck at that. By the way, one of the reasons, this is a little bit off topic, but it's on topic. Why was USAID one of the first places Doge shut down? It was a nod to Putin. I'm not joking. We're going to stop this. We care about democracy everywhere. We're going to stop this CIA stuff everywhere. That's heavily going into places like, I don't know, Kazakhstan on your border, places like that, where the Wagner Group is now. We've been sent to the, and they've already lost where the Wagner Group is now in West Africa, East Africa. He was conceding to the Wagner Group and to all of that. He was conceding to all of that. That's one of the reasons why.
So this project began, and we had a continuity of government for 30 years until maybe yesterday, perhaps. 30 years of a project. Ukraine and Georgia were the keys to the project. Why? Because America learned everything it knows from the British.
Yes.
And so we are.
How many times did I tell you this? America is the child of the British Empire. We left our dad. Back in 1776, we said, well, I'm not going to be like you, Dad. I'm going to be different. I don't care about the empire. I'm going to be about life and liberty and pursuit of happiness. That's what I'm going to do. You suck, Dad. And we left. Done. We're out. Then all of a sudden, 1945 came. And our dad was like, son, time for me to retire. British Empire had been a long time. Time for you to take over, son. Take over the business. That's what happened. And we went, gotcha, Pop. I've always loved you. I'm back. And boom, British Empire became American Empire. Literally. I'm not even joking with that. British Empire had the largest navy that controlled the seven seas. Now we do. British Empire fought in Afghanistan. We did. British Empire fought in the Middle East. Now we did. We just took right over. We got you, Pop. Came right back home. That was it. Came right back home. Yes, we did. What's the old saying? If you don't try to be like, if you don't try, you will always become your father or your mother. We did. Yes, we did. But there's an advantage to that. Most of the time, when empires fall, there is terrible chaos because most empires don't have children. Most don't. Right? The Roman Empire fell, Dark Ages. Right? Chinese Empire falls, utter chaos. Right? So Egyptian Empire falls, utter chaos. British Empire falls, I got my son, he'll take over it. What happens what happens when our empire falls? We don't have any kids. Only the Brits had kids. We don't have any kids. We better get some kids fast. We don't have any to take over the empire. What are we going to do? So, yes. Anyway, all righty. IC says, Al Jazeera spoke with the former African delegate who spoke about how glad Africa is that U.S. aid has been pulled. Correct. Yes. It's at the front. They would rather have the Russians. I know it sounds crazy, but why? Because the Russians just want money and trade with the minerals. That's all they want, nothing else. IC goes on to say, USAID was a front to destabilize, plunder, and take advantage. Yes. And to push our views and our values also, which you might go, that's a good thing. They don't think so. Right? The French try the same thing. The Russians don't care. We will guard the minerals. We will put our troops in there and we'll fight your rebels with you. We don't care if your rebels are good or bad. We don't care if your rebels are democratic or not. They're your rebels. We'll kill them because we're mercenaries. We don't care. We don't care who the rebels are. Are they Muslims? Are they Christians? Don't care. We'll kill them. We don't care. And we'll guard it. All we want is cash for doing it and then a good trade deal for your minerals or your gold or whatever they're doing. Whatever. And the Africans go, wait a minute. So you're not going to like CIS? No, we don't do that. Oh, you're not going to like force us to be like you? Nope, not at all. You don't care if we give you blood diamonds? No, the bloodier the better. Oh, okay. And that's why the Wagner Group is controlling East Africa and West Africa. You're going to see in the future, there is a war right now. Oh my God, if I remember the country, it's Burundi, Rwanda, and Democratic Republic of Congo, I think, going on right now in Central Africa. You will see in the next 2 years or so, Russians will be involved. Romanians were there. They got kicked out. Romanians got booted. And they got booted because they lost. I'm not joking. They lost too many battles. And they all got captured. And the Africans go, you guys suck. You're out. Hey, Wagner Group, you guys tend to be brutal and don't care and win battles. And they're like, yes, we are brutal. And we win battles. Accurate. Can you come in and fight for us and kill some people? Happy to, my friends. And then they come. You might go, Larry, that sounds horrible. Yes, and happening now. And again, if you think I'm making any of this up, receipts everywhere. Just look for it. Receipts everywhere. Lunatic says, we've been lied to and programmed for over 100 years. Correct. Question everything. Yes. Except what I say. What I say is always right. So yes. Dave says, Larry, we started doing empire with Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican-American War. We continued empire with the Spanish-American War. I would argue that there was a difference, Dave. And hear me out with this before you tell me I'm wrong. Hear me out. I think the concept of manifest destiny is different than empire. And hear me out when I say this. Manifest destiny does limit you. Manifest destiny was the continent, which still is growth, yes, but not going out and creating an empire. It is growth of your individual nation. So there's a difference. So with the Mexican-American War and Louisiana Purchase, in my view, that's actually still manifest destiny. Spanish-American War is where I would say we began empire, right? I would say because that was actually kind of off the continent. That was outside of what manifest destiny was saying. So I would argue Spanish-American War is where we began to test our empire and see if we could be as cool as our dad. Can we try some of this, Dad? Can I get into the business, Dad? Can I test a bit? Yeah. Dad was like, go ahead. Be in the business. See if you can do a little bit of empire building. The Brits were like, oh, look at him. Look at him. Chip off the old block. Doing a little bit of empire building. Look how good he is. That's great. Well done, son. That's what was happening in the Spanish-American War. So I would argue that the beginnings of us was actually the Spanish-American War. And prior to that, I would put that under manifest destiny, which again is empire-like, but it's not actually an empire because you're actually building your own nation out. Once you go to the Spanish-American War, now you are shifting. Now you are changing. Now you're actually building an empire that's outside of your own nation. I don't know, Dave. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's it. That's where I would go.
The wannabe British Empire. And what the British Empire understood in 1853, yes. Lord Palmerston, excuse me, is that you surround Russia in the Black Sea and you deny Russia access to the Eastern Mediterranean.
Yep.
And all you're watching is an American project to do that in the 21st century. The idea was that there would be Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Georgia as the Black Sea littoral.
There we go.
That would deprive Russia of any international status by.
Because one thing we've learned is when you surround and you contain, that containment always works, except for, ever. It never works. Ever. But we never stop. We keep thinking containment works. Containment literally never works. Literally never works. It's correct. Phil, bringing up the 1850s, the Charge of the Light Brigade. Accurate. Yes. Nicely done. Look at you, Phil. I love your history stuff. Nicely done. You actually picked that one up. Nicely done.
Blocking the Black Sea and essentially by neutralizing Russia as more.
For those who don't know, the Charge of the Light Brigade was actually during the Crimean War. Brits versus Russians.
Or than a local power. Brzezinski's completely clear about this. And before Brzezinski, there was Mackinder. And who owns the island of the world owns the world. So this project goes back a long time. I think it goes back basically to Palmerston. And again, I've lived through every administration. I've known these presidents. I've known their teams. Nothing changed much from Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump 1 to Biden.
Yep.
Maybe they got worse step by step. Biden was the worst in my view.
Yep.
Maybe.
I don't have to fight Mike on this. So Mike already knows Biden was the worst. Biden was the worst. One of the reasons why I think he's the worst is not just because of what he did, but him and his team should have known better. They should have known better. And so either they were incompetent or just didn't care and thought, doesn't matter. We're American. Do what we want? One of those two. Both are terrible. Neither is a good answer, but both, they should have done. I could, in theory, get how the first Bush could have screwed up. He had never dealt with the end of the Cold War. He was a Cold Warrior. He was a CIA guy. Maybe he, couldn't figure that out. Okay, maybe. I mean, it sucks. He's supposed to, but okay, I get it. Right? Maybe. But Clinton wasn't a Cold War baby. Clinton was young compared to other guys, right? He's in his 40s, right? He hadn't been through all that stuff. He wasn't a CIA guy. Why did Clinton fall for that? What's Clinton's excuse? And then Biden, okay, Cold War guy completely, but watch the failures of the past 40 years. His team should have been like, oh, all these things we've been doing for 40 years, how they've been failing and just making things worse. Yeah, I noticed that. We should stop doing those. You know what? You're right. Let's not do this stupidity. They didn't do that. Did we notice stuff that hasn't been working for like 50 years? Yeah. Let's do more of that. And they were like, yes, let's do more of that. The problem is we didn't do enough of it. If we just did more terrible stuff, then everything would all be great. That's what it was. So, yes.
Also because he was not compos mentis for the last couple of years. And I say that seriously, not as a snarky remark. The American political system is a system of image. It's a system.
Yeah, and he's admitting that. This is what I'm saying. I don't know if it was Biden, but whether it was Biden or not, it's his administration. So it might have been Biden, maybe, but it was definitely his administration either way. And he gets credit or he gets the blame either way. Phil says Biden sleepwalked to a pot. Yes, probably. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. Who knows what he knew?
System of media manipulation every day. It is a PR system. And so you could have a president that basically doesn't function and have that in power for 2 years and actually have that president run for re-election. And one damn thing is he had to stand on a stage for 90 minutes by himself. And that was the end of it. Had it not been that mistake, he would have gone on to have his candidacy, whether he was sleeping after 4 p.m. in the afternoon or not. So this is actually the reality. Everybody goes along with it. It's impolite to say anything that I'm saying because we don't speak the truth about almost anything in this world right now.
Yeah. That's
so this project went on from the 1990s. Bombing Belgrade 78 straight days in 1999 was part of this project. Splitting apart the country when borders are sacrosanct, aren't they indeed? Except for Kosovo. That's fine because borders are sacrosanct except when America changes them.
Bingo.
Sudan was another related project. The South Sudan rebellion. Did that just happen because South Sudanese rebelled? Or can I give you the CIA playbook?
No.
To please understand, as grown-ups, what this is about. Military events are costly. They require equipment, training, base camps, intelligence, finance. That comes from...
Michael says they had a Baskin Robbins in the East Wing. Is that real? Or are you messing with me because he loves ice cream? I don't know. That could be true. Like, I don't know. That could be true. And Biden was willing to sign anything they put in front of him. That I believe. I could see that. I could see them being like, yeah, hey, this is this thing, Mr. President. Oh, it is? Yeah, just sign it. Okay, sign this. Okay. I could see that. Like, I could believe that could be true. They could be like, it's almost nap time, sir. It is. Now just sign these 7 pieces of paper before you go to sleep. You can have nappy time. Yay. And it goes and signs like 7 pieces of paper, Okay. And that was it. I love that. That's great.
Big powers. That doesn't come from local insurrections. South Sudan did not defeat North Sudan or Sudan in a tribal battle. It was a U.S. project.
South Sudan's tiny. I mean, it's tiny.
I would go often to Nairobi and meet U.S. military or senators or others with deep interest in Sudan's politics. This was part of the game of unipolarity. So the NATO enlargement, as you know, started in 1999 with Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And Russia was extremely unhappy about it. But these were countries still far from the border. And Russia protested, but of course to no avail. Then George Bush Jr. came in when 9/11 occurred.
I just went to 1.75.
President Putin pledged all support. And then the U.S. Decided in September 20th, 2001, that it would launch 7 wars in 5 years. And you can listen to General Wesley Clark online talk about that. He was NATO Supreme Commander in 1999. He went to the Pentagon on September 20th, 2001. He was handed the paper explaining 7 wars. These, by the way, were Netanyahu's wars. The idea was partly to clean up old Soviet allies and partly to take out supporters of Hamas and Hezbollah. Because
look at that. He's saying it. He's saying it out loud. Yes. He's saying it out loud. Yes. Roy says Putin is not going to invade any NATO nation. Correct. It's not a thing. He's correct. Not a thing. Not going to happen. Zero chance. Not going to happen. Not a thing.
Netanyahu's idea was there will be one state, thank you, only one state. It will be Israel. Israel will control all of the territory. And anyone that objects, we will overthrow. Not we.
Dave says, Larry, I would disagree with him. There's no such thing as Yugoslav. You were either a Serb, Croat, Bosnian. They remembered that they actually hated each other. No, I agree with you. I'm with you, brother. We forced Yugoslavia because we wanted to have a nation there, right? We made it up after World War I because we knew that it wouldn't work under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So we were like, okay, they're not Austrians, they're not Hungarians, so that's not going to work. So after World War I, we made Austria, full of Austrians, Hungary, full of Hungarians, full of Hungarians, right? And we said, what's this left? I don't know. What are they? Well, they're kind of all like Slavs, right? Yeah, kind of. Let's make them Southern Slavs. That sounds good. That's literally what we did. You're right. We basically took a former colony and did that colonial thing and said, okay, you're now this. Like we made Iraq a country. That wasn't a country. We just made it a country, right? We just did that. Same idea, right? Phil says, not Austrian, Hungarian, or an empire. Accurate statement. So I'm with you on that. We forced it together, and it worked because they had a strong dictator. Whether you like Tito, and Tito was not a good guy by any means, but he was an effective dictator. That's true. He was an effective dictator. And being an effective dictator, he kept the country together, even though you're right, they were separate entities. Once he was gone, it was definitely going to fall apart. I agree with you. I'm just going back to the same piece. Don't bomb them. The U.S. bombing them was not the answer to that. That's all I'm saying. The U.S. bombing them was not the answer. That's all I'm saying. But I'm agreeing with you. That was something we forced together. That was it. We just forced them.
Exactly. Our friend, the United States. That's U.S. policy until this morning. We don't know whether it will change. Now, the only wrinkle is that maybe the U.S. will own Gaza instead of Israel owning Gaza. But the idea has been around at least for 25 years. It actually goes back to a document called Clean Break that Netanyahu and his American political team put together in 1996 to end the idea of the two-state solution. You can also find it online. There's
a thing now that they've been talking about for a while, what he's talking about, if you can look it up, it's called Großen Israel. And it's a terrible parody of the Germans who wanted to create Großen Deutschland, which was all the Germans together in one large area, and that was going to be where the Lebensraum and all that stuff was going to be. And now they're saying that's the case with Israel. Israel wants to create Großen Israel, which would then create a larger Israel area, which is part of, I told you, they wanted a buffer zone, but to include all these things to keep them. That's what they were talking about. So that's what he's talking about now.
So these are projects. These are long-term events. These aren't, is it Clinton? Is it Bush? Is it Obama? That's the boring way to look at American politics, as the day-to-day game. But that's not what American politics is.
Correct.
So the next round of NATO enlargement came in 2004 with 7 more countries. The 3 Baltic states, Romania, Bulgaria, Slovenia, and Slovakia. Yep. At this point, Russia was pretty damn upset. This was a complete violation of the post-war order agreed with German reunification. And essentially, it was a fundamental trick or defection of the U.S. from a.
Yep. Phil says, I'm sorry. Let's see. Roy says every nation has a big enough buffer zone to maintain their peace. Phil says the historic Israel included parts of Syria. That's accurate. I'm not saying there's no basis for it. What I'm saying is, if that's actually true, boy, is that going to hurt. Boy, is that going to hurt. That's all I'm saying. But look, the Germans had to be forward. Right, half of Poland now is former Prussia. Half of Poland now is part of the is historically part of the German Empire. One of the reasons why they had an invasion in 1939. So there's historical reasons for all types of things. Doesn't mean we should do it. Doesn't mean it won't hurt if we do it. You might go, but Larry, it's not legal or fair. I've expressed this more than once. I'll say it again. There's no such thing as an illegal war. The question is, who will enforce it? So that matters. Who will enforce it? Operative arrangement is what it amounted to, because they believe in unipolarity. So as everybody recalls, because we just had the Munich Security Conference last week in 2007, President Putin said, stop, enough, stop now. And of course, what that meant was in 2008, the United States jammed down Europe's throat, enlargement of NATO to Ukraine and to Georgia. This is a long-term project.
I listened to Mr. Saakashvili in New York.
And note that the countries that they've invaded, that Russia's invaded, they went to war with, Georgia was a country that was going to go into NATO. Ukraine, country that was going to go into NATO. A country on the border of Russia that was going to go into NATO. Is there maybe something similar there?
In May of 2008, and I walked out, called Sonia, and said, "This man's crazy." And a month later, a war broke out because the United States told this guy, "We saved Georgia." And he stands at the Council on Foreign Relations, says, "Georgia's in the center of Europe." Well, it ain't, ladies and gentlemen. It's not in the center of Europe. And the most recent events are not helpful for Georgia, for its safety, and your MPs going there, or MEPs going there, and European politicians. That gets Georgia destroyed. That doesn't save Georgia. That gets Georgia destroyed.
He just told the EU to their face, you sending all your people there doesn't help Georgia. It gets Georgia destroyed. Yeah.
Completely destroyed. In 2008, as everybody knows, our former CIA director, William Burns, sent a long message back to Condoleezza Rice. Niet means niet, about expansion. This we know from Julian Assange, because believe me, not one word is told to the American people about anything, or to you, or by any of your newspapers these days. So we have Julian Assange to thank, but we can read the memo in detail.
He just hammered all of their press, and he was right. And he was right. He hammered all their press, and he's right. And he says Julian Assange is a hero. He is. Julian Assange should absolutely be pardoned in every way, shape, or form and given the American Medal of Freedom. I don't care if he's not American. Give it to him anyway. I don't care. Whatever's the equivalent we give to foreign people, give him that. He's an absolute hero. Shame on us for punishing him in any way, shape, or form. Shame on us for punishing Snowden in any way, shape, or form. And everyone goes, that guy's got to go away because you support this. You support the American empire. That is why you're like, Julian Assange is a criminal, because you support the American empire. You support the American empire. Edward Snowden is a criminal. You support the American empire. I don't.
As you know, Viktor Yanukovych was elected in 2010 on the platform of neutrality. Russia had no territorial interests or designs in Ukraine at all. I know. I was there during these years. What Russia was negotiating was a 25-year lease to 2042 for Sevastopol Naval Base. That's it. Not for Crimea, not for the Donbass, nothing like that. This idea that Putin is reconstructing the Russian Empire, this is childish propaganda. Excuse me.
Did you hear what he said? Childish propaganda. I said it was silly and fantasy. He said childish propaganda. I like his better. It's true. Not going to happen. Was never going to happen. Is not a thing. I gave you if you think I made that data up, research yourself. European GDP is 19 trillion. Russian GDP is 2 trillion. That's how it works. Russian population, about 140 million. Tough if you count who they control in Ukraine right now, but around 140 million. EU, around 450 million. Russia's outgunned 3-1 in bodies, 9-1 in dollars. And they're going to take over Europe. Stop. Stop. It's a fantasy. You've made it up. It is, to his point, childish propaganda so that you'll keep supporting the military-industrial complex and the American empire. Please stop doing that.
If anyone knows the day-to-day and year-to-year history, this is childish stuff.
Yep.
Childish stuff seems to work better than adult stuff. So no designs at all. The United States decided this man must be overthrown. Yep. It's called a regime change operation. There have been about 100 of them by the United States, many in your countries and many all over the world. That's what the CIA does for a living. Okay, please know it. It's a very unusual kind of foreign policy. But in America, if you don't like the other side, you don't negotiate with them, you try to overthrow them.
This is why, if you guys are worrying about why was China able to do so many deals in Africa when America wasn't? Because this. If you go bad on a deal in America, this happens. I wasn't making that up. This happens, right? You go bad and deal with China, what happens? Nothing. What are you going to do? Nothing. China doesn't have a CIA like we do. China doesn't have Marines like we do. China can't do what we can do. China doesn't have SEAL Team 6. They don't have that. I'm not making that. They don't have that. They just don't have it. There's no way they could do what we could do. We make a deal with some African nation, and Africans go, yeah, no. We go, oh, is that right? No. Is that right? Okay. Okay. I hope you liked your president because he's going to be gone soon. I hope you like that because he's going to be gone soon. The Chinese go, well, you have to pay us. And then everyone's go, no, we don't. Well, you made a deal. And what are you going to do? Go to the World Bank or something? We don't care. We owe them money too. We haven't paid them in years. So that's why we went to you. We already blew the IMF off. That's why we went to you to get the cash, because they won't give us any more money because we didn't pay them either. So why don't you go with the Americans? Because the Americans will bomb us. If we screw the Americans over, they'll bomb us. They'll get rid of our... There's a price to pay if we mess with the Americans. We're not messing with them. They made gunboat diplomacy. That's their thing. You Chinese, you don't know what that is. You rookies, have a nice day. That's what's happening now. So yes.
Preferably covertly. If it doesn't work covertly, you do it overtly. You always say it's not our fault. They're the aggressor. They're the other side. They're Hitler.
Always.
That comes up every 2 or 3 years. Whether it's Saddam Hussein, whether it's Assad, whether it's Putin, that's very convenient. That's the only foreign policy explanation the American people are ever given anywhere.
Dave says, Larry, one, Putin is trying to rebuild his empire, but he isn't doing it by invading. Okay, I could buy that. Dave says he's doing it by fomenting low-grade revolutions in Eastern and Central European. You mean, so he's making nations more open to him? I'd buy that's what America does. I'd buy that. That's possible. I'm not against that. All I'm saying is he's not going to, the Russian army isn't moving into Poland. That's not a thing. The Russian army isn't moving into Hungary or Romania. That's not a thing. So, yes, you could be correct. I'm not against that. I think it's very possible. But it's all I'm saying is it's not going to be an invasion. That's not going to happen. That's not a thing. And that's what they're saying, Dave. They're not saying what you're saying. They're saying the Russians are going to cross the border into Estonia. They're not. That's not a thing.
Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Well, we're facing Munich 1938. Can't talk to the other side. They're evil, implacable foes. That's the only model of foreign policy. We
do that all the time. We are so stupid as Americans. And this is heavily a Republican thing. You can't, we don't negotiate with terrorists. How stupid are you to even say something dumb like that? How can you even say, of course you have to. You negotiate with everybody. You negotiate with your enemies. You literally do so. You're going to kill every terrorist. You can't do that. Never works, has never worked, will never work. They say that so they can never end the war. So they can never stop bombing. We've been bombing the Houthis for how long? 15 years now? More? How long have we been bombing? 20 years? Whatever. How long it's been. You negotiate with terrorists. How dumb is that? But we say it all the time. You hear it all. This is Republican stuff. Republicans will always say that. We can't negotiate with the bad. Well, that's insanely stupid. Makes no sense. And you know where that comes from? That comes from a Democrat. That comes from FDR. Unconditional surrender. That's where that comes from, which was stupid then and is stupid now. Democrats used to say it back in the days of FDR. It was dumb then. Republicans said, oh, they haven't said it in a while. We'll say that stupid stuff so we can keep fighting our wars. And now Republicans say that. It's insanely stupid. How are you going to end the war if you don't talk to them? How are you going to get your people back? Somehow we negotiate with Hamas to get our people back, didn't we? So I guess we do negotiate with terrorists, don't we? Of course we do. Every time you hear some guy go, don't negotiate with terrorists, know that guy's been watching too much Fox News. That guy's watched too much Sean Hannity. He just watched too much Sean Hannity. That is not a thing. You should negotiate with everybody. Doesn't mean you stop fighting. So here's the thing. We think that if you negotiate, now you're weak. Again, dumb Republican propaganda. Not true. You can still fight and negotiate. The Russians are doing it now. The Russians right now are doing it. They are hammering the Ukrainians right now. That's happening. And they're negotiating. You can do both. Your diplomats aren't on the battlefield. So you keep fighting, right? And do so. Yes. Phil, you are so correct. Phil says, I think misunderstanding of World War II has justified a lot of bad policy since then. So true. So true. Larry, we should have negotiated with the Nazis. Yes. I bring up the story. I'm never going to stop saying it because this is the biggest thing for anyone who thinks that insane stuff. I'm not talking to people. You'd negotiated with Hitler. Okay. No, but the Nazis I would have, of course. Here's why. Let me explain why so you can see what I'm talking about here. The Germans tried to kill Hitler about 40 some odd times. They had failed, obviously, every time. They tried to. What was one of the reasons why they couldn't? One of the reasons why they couldn't is they couldn't get enough of the Germans' high command to agree to killing him. That was one of the reasons. Why not? Because we were dumb enough to say unconditional surrender. We won't talk to you unless you have unconditional surrender. So what did the Germans think? The Germans thought, man, when we invade countries, we sometimes erase them. So if we do unconditional surrender, Germany will not exist. Our nation will not exist. No. Then we're not fight. We'll fight to the death then. And they did. They fought to the death. They did. Now you might go, they were never surrendered. They surrendered in World War I, and they were winning the war. The Germans had beaten the Russians and were physically in the territory of the Belgians and the French and still surrendered. Why? Because Woodrow Wilson, as bad as he was, did have a plan. It was called the 14 points. It was a plan to have victory, a peace without victory. We were not going to punish the Germans that bad. Germans would exist after the war. They would still exist. They were like, okay, we'll take it. But FDR was a terrible president and said unconditional. So what does that mean? What could he have done? I don't know. How about you say, hey, I'm making this number up, top 24 Nazis surrender their bodies, dead or alive, to us, and we'll talk peace. We want the top 24 Nazis, send those to us, give them to us, those 24 people, dead or alive, we don't care, send them to us, and we'll talk peace. We will now discuss it. We'll now see, what will you pay? How will you remove? We will talk ending this war. Michael, we got to punish the Nazis. You might say that if you want to. Okay, great. Think of all the people who died in the last year of the war. You could have ended that war in 1944. How do I know that? Because you go back now and look at all the data. The German High Command knew in 1943, the end of 1943, the war was over. They knew that. They knew they were going to lose. There was no way Germans could win by the end of 1940. They knew that. It was over. They would have surrendered in 44. They would have negotiated peace and surrendered. So what would have happened? All those people who died in the last year of the war, they died for nothing. Let me say it again. All those people in the last year of the war died for nothing. Most Americans who died in the last year of the war. All the Jews who were in those camps last year of the war died for nothing. Died for nothing. All the Russians, all the Germans, all the Brits died for nothing. They died because FDR was a horrible president and said, I'm not talking to Nazis. Good. Now millions, I'm not exaggerating with that number, millions of people died because he wouldn't talk to the enemy. That is insanely stupid. Every time you hear it, recognize that person talks too much to Fox News. You should always talk. You can still keep fighting, but you always talk. You always talk. You want to end wars whenever you can. Phil says the Valkyrie plot showed that German military was ready to surrender to the Americans. Yes, and that's based on truth. The data is everywhere. In fact, one of the things that they wanted to do, which is true, one of the things that the Germans wanted to do, what they were hoping for, they thought the Americans would talk to them because the Germans were hoping, true story, do your own homework if you care, they were hoping that the Americans would agree to a German surrender of all territories in the West. So the Americans helped the Germans fight the Russians and crush the communists. True. They were going to give up Norway, give up Denmark, give up France, give up all territories in the West. Give it all back. Take back Belgium, take back, and we'll pay reparations. Fine. I'm not joking. That was a true thing. Germans like, yes, we'll do it. Help us fight the Russians and get rid of the communists. They were more worried about fighting the communists. Absolutely true, Phil. They were ready to go. They were ready to give up all the land in Africa, give it all back. They were prepared for that. And pay to help fight the Russians. True story. And people won't tell you. You won't hear that. But again, do any homework? It's grossly true. It's so obviously true. So, yeah, absolutely. Mike says, no, Hamas killed 16 of 22 hostages taken after terrorist attacks. Civilians only left one alive, and Hamas still has. What are you talking about? There was a hostage release. Happened, what, a month ago? The peace treaty, the ceasefire we had. We didn't negotiate with Hamas. Dude, what's wrong with you? Literally, we negotiated with them. Yes, we did. That's how the what was left over happened. Yes. We literally negotiated with them. Yes, we did. And they are clearly a terrorist organization, and we negotiated with them. Of course we did. And we'll do it again. There'll be another ceasefire. I don't know when it'll be. Is it next month, 2 months, next year? There'll be another one. And we'll negotiate with them again because we do. It's propaganda, dude. Don't fall for that shit. It's propaganda. It's not talking to your enemies is silly. You have to talk to them. You have to. Roy says, Israel taking out terror leaders is what got the terror groups to negotiate. Yes, but they negotiate. You're not wrong, right? If you remember when they first did when the Israelis first did that beeper explosion, the beeper attack they did, I literally am on record. I said within a month there'll be an attack. It's the perfect timing. And the reason why I said it, and it's the main reason why the what Hamas, the other one, Hezbollah, why Hezbollah got their butt kicked was because Hezbollah is in cells, right? They fight in cells. And that's why it's hard to fight each cell. So when the leaders got taken out, there was no communication. So each cell just sits there and fights to the end. They don't know what to do. They just sit there and they fight. They don't know. There's no communication. So you attack and you just surround all these guys and you crush all the cells, which is what Israel did, which is why Hezbollah got their butt kicked. They got smashed. Now, if they would have kept all the leaders, they would have been able to negotiate falling back, taking care of each city, going through the sewer systems. I did in what 2000 something else. They still had the leaders, and Israel got really beat up in that war. Why? Because they could then negotiate and know how to move through. This time there was none of that. So they just sat in their cells and got crushed. So correct, but I don't care why, Roy. I don't care why. Negotiate and stop fighting. Particularly if we know the outcome. Like there was no way Hamas was beating Israel. It's not a thing. That wasn't going to happen. We know the outcome. Let's negotiate this. We know the outcome. How about less people die? We know the outcome, and let's negotiate it. That's all I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you, Roy. If that's what it took, all right.
Ever hear from our mass media, and the mass media repeats it entirely because it's completely suborned by the U.S. government.
Yep.
Now, in 2014, the U.S. worked actively to overthrow Yanukovych. Everybody knows the phone call intercepted by my Columbia University colleague, Victoria Nuland, and the U.S. Ambassador, Peter Piot. You don't get better evidence. The Russians intercepted her call and they put it on the internet.
Yes.
Listen to it. It's fascinating. I know all these people. By the way, by doing that, they all got promoted in the Biden administration. That's the job. Now, when the Maidan occurred, I was called immediately.
If you look at that phone call, I don't know if they have it here or not, but the phone call is terrible. The phone call literally says is her going, I don't care what they say. Let's just do this. They don't matter. It was terrible. Like they knew exactly what they were doing. Yes.
Oh, Professor Sachs, the new Ukrainian prime minister would like to see you to talk about the economic crisis, because I'm pretty good at that. And so I flew to Kiev and I was walked around the Maidan, and I was told how the U.S. paid the money for all the people around the Maidan. Spontaneous revolution of dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, please, where do all these media outlets come from? Where does all this organization come from? Where do all these buses come from? Where do all these people called in come from? Are you kidding? This is organized effort. And it's not a secret, except to citizens of Europe and the United States. Everyone else.
And I've been saying this forever. I'm glad this guy's saying it. I'm hoping more people get it. This is how it actually works.
Understands it quite clearly. Then came Minsk, and especially Minsk II, which, by the way, was modeled on South Tyrolean autonomy. And the Belgians could have related to Minsk II very well. It said there should be autonomy for the Russian-speaking regions in the east of Ukraine. It was supported unanimously by the UN Security Council. The United States and Ukraine decided it was not to be enforced. Germany and France, which were the guarantors of the Normandy process, let it go.
Yep.
And it was absolutely...
Because loyalty to America is all that matters. That's all that matters. Loyalty to America is all that matters.
Another direct American unipolar action with Europe, as usual, playing completely useless subsidiary role, even though it was a guarantor of the agreement. Trump, one, raised the armaments. There were many thousands of deaths in the shelling by Ukraine in the Donbass. There was no Minsk II agreement.
Yep.
And then Biden came into office. And again, I know all these people. I used to be a member of the Democratic Party. I now am strictly sworn to be a member of no party.
Welcome aboard, my friend.
Because both are the same anyway.
Yes.
And because this is the Democrats became complete warmongers over time, and there was not one voice about peace. Just like
now, look, you. I know some of you are Democrats. I know some of you lean left, and you don't like hearing that. But I've been telling you this for a while. The actual anti-war left has left the Democratic Party. They are actually further left. if you want to be left-leaning and be anti-war, you've got to go to the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. That's it. Those are the two parties. If you want to be left, be part of a party and be anti-war. That's it. And then the Libertarian Party isn't necessarily left, but it's just, we'll take people in the left because they take left or right as long as you don't want to use force. We'll take you, right? Either way, doesn't matter. So you can come to the Libertarian Party, which is not necessarily left, but we'll take you, or go to the Green Party, which is clearly left, very far left, but is actually anti-war. And that's why Jill Stein actually did so well last year compared to others, because Jill Stein was actually backed financially by the actual anti-war left, which does not exist in the Democratic Party. And they go, Republicans are as bad. Republicans are bad. But when it comes to war, they're better than Democrats. Because to his point, there is an actual voice in the Republican Party for anti-war. It exists in the Republican Party. It does not exist in the Democratic Party. That's the difference.
Most of your parliamentarians, the same way.
If you're right-leaning and you're anti-war, you only have the Libertarian Party. That's all you have. You have, that's all you have if you're anti-war, right? If you don't care about the wars, you're like, yeah, bomb them all. Republicans are fine for you. You'll be fine.
So at the end of 1991, Putin put on the table a last effort in two security agreement drafts, one with Europe and one with the United States. The U.S. put on the table December 15th, 2021. I had an hour call with Jake Sullivan in the White House begging, Jake, avoid the war. You can avoid the war.
Yes, and this is what people keep saying. Larry, you don't understand. There was no way. You don't understand. Putin wanted to invade. You don't understand. Let's be very clear. If America really wants to avoid a war, it can. America didn't want to avoid the war. Could it have? Of course it could have, if it really wanted to. It didn't. Why? Because Afghanistan's going away. That's why. I wish I was making this up. We have to keep the wars going. We're an empire. We're always at war. That's how it works. But Larry, Putin, no. That's never fool yourself into thinking that America cannot avoid a war. It can always if it wants to. It doesn't want to. America didn't have to go into World War I. America didn't have to go into World War II. America didn't have to go into Korea, didn't have to go into Vietnam. It didn't have to go into Grenada. It didn't have to go into Yugoslavia. It didn't have to go into Iraq. It didn't have to go into Afghanistan as a war. It didn't have to. It does not have to become a war. There were other things we could have done to avoid those wars. We didn't want to, though. That's the problem.
You have to do is say, NATO will not enlarge to Ukraine.
Done.
And he said to me, oh, NATO's not going to enlarge to Ukraine. Don't worry about it. I said, Jake, say it publicly. No, we can't say it publicly. I said, Jake, you're going to have a war over something that isn't even going to happen? He said, don't worry, Jeff, there will be no war. These are not very bright people. I'm telling you, if I can give you my honest view, they're not very bright people. And I dealt with them for more than 40 years. They talk to themselves. They don't talk to anybody else. They play game theory. In non-cooperative game theory,
that is the other problem they have, is you see a lot of people just sit in an echo chamber, and everyone says the same shit, so they believe it because everyone says it. Right? It's all the same thing. Yeah, no, it's just not true.
You don't talk to the other side. You just make your strategy. This is the essence of game theory. It's not negotiation theory. It's not peacemaking theory. It is unilateral, non-cooperative theory, if you know formal game theory. That's what they play. It started at the Rand Corporation. That's what they still play. In 2019, there's a paper by Rand, How Do We Extend Russia? Do you know they wrote a paper, which Biden followed? How do we annoy Russia? That's literally the strategy. How do we annoy Russia? We're trying to provoke it, trying to make it break apart, maybe have...
That's my point. We did it with Japan in the 1920s and 30s. That's why we went to war with Japan, because we made that war happen. Now, again, I'll be very clear. It was Japan's high command that decided to bomb Pearl Harbor. That's their fault. But did we set it up? 100% we did. If you look at the history, we annoyed and provoked Japan into bombing us. That's true. And you're like, but they bombed. They did. We did it. We did it with Russia too. 100%. We do this often. We do it often. It's a thing that we do.
Regime change. Maybe have unrest. Maybe have economic crisis. That's what you...
The Vietnam War was because the French couldn't control Vietnam. And we were like, oh, you can't control Vietnam? Oh, we're an empire. We'll control Vietnam. And we replaced the French. I'm not making that up. Then we lied about the Bay of Tonkin, right? Them bombing us. They didn't bomb us. We made that up. That's a lie. Never happened. But we made that up. So then we're going to war in Vietnam. See that? We decided to go to war.
Call your ally. Are you kidding? So I had a long and frustrating phone call with Sullivan. I was standing out in the freezing cold. I happened to be trying to have a ski day.
You lost that, my friend.
And there I was, Jake, don't have the war. Oh, there'll be no war, Jeff. We know a lot of what happened the next month, which is that they refused to negotiate. The stupidest idea of NATO is the so-called open door policy. Are you kidding? NATO reserves the right to go where it wants without any neighbor having any say whatsoever.
Yep.
Well, I tell the Mexicans and the Canadians, don't try it. You know.
Well, here's the issue. Because NATO, what NATO is, it is an arm of the American empire. That's all it is. So NATO gets to go wherever it wants to go. Why? Because America does. They might say, Larry, you sound anti-American. The opposite. If you know me at all, I am pro-American like there's no tomorrow. I'm against American empire. The empire is not a good idea. 1967, I think it was, 66, 67, Star Trek has a TV show that you guys know about. And in one of those shows, for those of you remember it, there is a parallel universe. And in the parallel universe, the Federation is not the Federation, it's the Empire, right? And in the Empire, they're all mean, they blow people up, they do bad stuff in the Empire. And as Captain Kirk is trying to get back to his universe, he goes to Spock and he says, don't you understand? This cannot work. The Empire will have to fail. That's how it works. He goes, I'm going to make this up. I forgot the actual number. He says something like, how long will the Empire last? He goes, whatever, 247 years, whatever Spock says, right? He knows the number. And he goes, what? He goes, terror must be maintained or the Empire will fail. That's what he says. Spock says, terror must be maintained or the Empire will fall. Well, if America has an empire, America has to use terror. I would like no empire. I don't want to be part of terror.
Trump may want to take over Canada. So Canada could say to China, why don't you build a military base in Ontario? I wouldn't advise it. And the United States would not say, well, it's an open door. That's their business. I mean, they can do what they want. That's not our business.
Could you imagine that? This is a very valid point. What if Canada goes, I'm worried that America will invade. I'm concerned because of what Trump said. So I'm going to allow the Chinese to build a base in British Columbia. Right? I'm going to allow them, to put that. I'm going to allow them to put this base in British Columbia. That's what I'm allowed them to do. Right? That's the answer. Do you think America would be like, okay? No, America would be jumping out of their skin. There is no way that would work. So yes. Mike says, here's Larry, mirror Spock from the mind of a pacifist and leftist Gene Roddenberry, so very far from reality, politics as it existed. Yeah, but still true, right? It doesn't make it wrong. The original Star Trek had a lot of truisms into it, tons of it. Part of it, if you remember, there was one where it was exactly the opposite. There was one, if you remember, he was, if you remember the original Star Trek, he has to go on a, he go on a planet, and there's two different groups fighting each other, and one is backed by the Klingons, right? And then Kirk says, well, then we have to back the other guys, right? So that the Klingons are screwed up. So he basically says proxy war is okay. So they've done both. I mean, for you to just say just because Gene Roddenberry was a pacifist and leftist, and he was both, means everything that came out of Star Trek was wrong? No. That's you going to, well, because he's a leftist, he's bad. That's the one word story. There was some garbage out of Star Trek, but there was some great stuff. The newer stuff is far worse. But the original story talked about realistic race issues. It talked about, it talked about the value of a system where there's an autocrat. Remember when they go to that one planet and one of it's like a Nazi planet? Remember that? Yeah. So I think that's a broad brush that's unfair to Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry. So the idea is still true. But yes, you're right. He was a pacifist and a leftist. That's accurate. Yeah, absolutely. So, all righty.
But grown-ups in Europe, repeat this. In Europe, in your commission, your high representative. This is nonsense stuff. This is not even baby geopolitics.
Yep.
This is just not thinking at all.
He is
So the war started. What was Putin's intention in the war? I can tell you what his intention was. It was to force Zelensky to negotiate neutrality. And that happened within 7 days of the start of the invasion. You should understand this, not the propaganda that's written about this. Oh, that they failed and he was going to take over Ukraine. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, understand something basic. The idea was to keep NATO. And what is NATO? It's the United States off of Russia's border. No more, no less.
This is literally a reason why North Korea exists. Now, you will hear people say the same thing. We got to give it North Korea. It's all about, North Korea. But no. The reason why North Korea exists is because we are in South Korea. North Korea is a buffer state from America being on the border of China. That's why China supports North Korea. North Korea is a basket case and is just a money sink for China. It's a money sink for China. That's what it actually is. Why would they do that? Why would they have a money sink for China? Because it keeps America off their border. Now, if America didn't have the same policy that this guy's talking about, if we weren't so stupid, first thing we do is we pull all of our troops out of South Korea. There's a way that you could actually unite Korea within 10 years. I'm not joking, probably within 5. You withdraw every single U.S. troop out of South Korea. Get them all out. Everything. Get them all out of South Korea. Number 1. Number 2, you offer Kim Jong-un and his family and all his friends he wants to go to leave with all the money they have, and you offer them something. Hey, you get China to agree. You make a deal with China. Hey, can you, buy some, beach land in Shanghai, whatever. Is that the cool place? Wherever they go, wherever the cool place is. Take all your money, take your billions, whatever, take it, and just go. Just go. No one to mess with you. Just go. That would never happen. It literally happened already. Idi Amin died in France. Idi Amin, the dictator from Uganda, he died someplace else. He went and left. It happens. Dictators pack up and leave. It happens. Give them a chance. They'll go. Zelensky's probably going to go someplace and lie someplace else. The guy from Syria, Assad, where is he in? Turkey now? No. Russia now? He's in Russia. Yeah, he's in Russia. They do. It happens. Right? The former president of Afghanistan, he went someplace too. I forgot where he went. Right? There we go. Phil says, Kim was going to go to Macau. Yeah, yes, sure, go there. I don't care. Whatever. Send them there. What would happen then? Oh, there'd be problems and stuff. Who cares? They're Koreans. They'll find an answer. How do I know that? The Germans did. Because they're all Germans. And they found a way to unite their country. We may not like it. Who cares? Not our country. It's Germany. Let them unite their country as they see fit. They're Germans. Good luck. The Koreans, they do the same thing. Just go ahead. Go ahead. Right? All good. So that's the issue. To do that, he'd go away. They'll find a way to unite the country. That would happen. That would happen within 5 years. They'd find a way. Would there be problems? Of course. Would there be social issues? Of course. But they're Koreans. Would the Chinese get behind it? Of course, because we know Americans in South Korea. That's the only reason why there is a North Korea. If Americans leave South Korea, there is no need for North Korea. You think the Chinese wouldn't love having a fully functional trading partner right next to them? That would be their Canada. That would be their Canada. A fully functional trading partner right there that has money to buy all their goods, that just takes a train ride right across, cheap. They'd have free trade in 5 minutes. You think they would love that? Are you high? Of course they would. They'd be their Canada. They would love that. Of course they would. And we don't do it, right? Roy says Germany did it. Doing fine. Israel too. Yes, you find an answer. It's what you do. Leave them alone. They'll do it. That's it. So it absolutely could go. It absolutely could go. Yes. So anyway, I'm yapping away. Let me move on.
I should add one very important point. Why are they so interested? First, because if China or Russia decided to have a military base on the Rio Grande or in the Canadian border, not only would the United States freak out, we'd have war within about 10 minutes.
Correct.
But because the United States unilaterally abandoned the anti-ballistic missile treaty in 2002 and ended the nuclear arms control framework by doing so. Yep. And this is extremely important to understand. The nuclear arms.
Yes. Phil says 1960s leftists were actually smart. That's true. They're very intelligent. I think many leftists are very smart. Doesn't mean they're right, but many of them are very smart. It's true. I've known many leftists that are very smart. True. Mike goes, I like Star Trek and the Roddenberry too, but I recognize his fantasy leftist dreams, but I don't give it weight beyond fantasy. You should. You should. Roy even says it. Star Trek broke many barriers, far ahead of its time, to allow everyone to strive for American. Yes, you should. You're off on that one, Mike. Star Trek broke a lot of barriers It wasn't perfect, of course. Obviously, nothing's perfect, but it did a lot of great stuff. The original Star Trek is a classic. That's why it lasts so long. That's why people still love it. So yeah, you can. I have my daughter now watch it sometimes. She's like, oh wow, Star Trek, the original episode talked about AI and it controlling things. There was AI all over it. Yeah, it was great. Absolutely. So yeah, the newest stuff not as good. Not for sure, not as good.
Control framework is based on trying to block a first strike. The ABM treaty was a critical component of that. The US unilaterally walked out of the ABM treaty in 2002. It blew a Russian gasket. So everything I've been describing is in the context of the destruction of the nuclear framework as well. And starting in 2010, the US put in Aegis missile systems in Poland and then in Romania.
Yep.
And Russia doesn't like that. And one of the issues on the table in December 2021, January 2022, was, does the United States claim the right to put missile systems in Ukraine? And Blinken told Lavrov in January 2022, the United States reserves the right to put missile systems wherever it wants.
Think about that. Now you might go, we're America, F yeah. You might think that if you want to, but then what does the rest of the world think? Why does Belarus exist? It exists as a buffer state. What does he want with Ukraine? He wants to conquer all of Ukraine. No, because that would put him on the border of NATO. He wants a buffer state. What is Georgia? It's a buffer state. All of these are buffer states. Have you not seen a pattern? Russia no longer shares a border with Turkey, which is part of NATO. Georgia blocks that. So does Armenia and a couple areas that block that area. Yes, those are buffer states. That's the issue. Doesn't share a border with Poland. Why? Belarus. That's a buffer state. Doesn't share a border with Hungary or Romania. Why not? Ukraine. That's a buffer state. That's what they want, is buffer states. Now, if you have been invaded as many times as Russia have, you might want a buffer state. Remember, World War I, the Germans beat Russia. No one's ever beat Russia except Germans. Only the Germans beat Russia. No one else has beaten Russia except the Germans, unless you count the Mongols. Depends how you do that. Depends if you do. But that's it. They absolutely want a buffer. They want a buffer state. Phil says, don't know if China wants to rebuild North Korea. Of course they would. Right now they're a drain. They would be an amazing trading partner if they combined. Imagine if you look, to be forward, South Korea may not want to rebuild North Korea. I'm not joking, because the problem is if South Korea would have to want to unite, not because of financial or anything else or cultural. It would be because they believe that they're all Koreans. It would be an ethnic reason, right? Otherwise, why would they? Financially, North Korea is a basket case. China just pumps money into it. So South Korea would have to go, okay, we will take this on, and we are going to pump money into North Korea. We're going to lose money. The average South Korean is going to do less well initially to somehow support and rebuild everything in North Korea, with the hope that within one generation, with the hope that they could build it enough to where the trade with China would make up for it. But they would suffer for at least a generation, 23 years. Not just that the language is a little bit different now because of the cultural issues, and the people won't be trusting. We found that with East and West Germans. Same thing. There was some trust issues there because they had been different for so many years, right? So there was some of that there. You're going to find that there too. You'll also find there'll be prejudice and biased. You see it now in South Korea. Oh, you escaped from the North. Oh, you're one of them. You see it in East and West Germany. Same thing. You see that also happening. You will see that happen also. But again, so what? It's their country. They're Koreans. They should unite as they see fit. And it won't be. We have problems in our country with that. So we deal with it. So
that's your putative ally. And now let's put intermediate missile systems back in Germany. The United States walked out of the INF treaty unilaterally in 2019. There is no nuclear arms framework right now. None.
Yep.
When Zelensky said in 7 days, let's negotiate, I know the details of this exquisitely because I've talked to all the parties in detail. Yep. Within a couple of weeks, there was a document exchanged that President Putin had approved, that Lavrov had presented, that was being managed by the Turkish mediators. I flew to Ankara to listen in detail to what the mediators were doing. Ukraine walked away unilaterally from a near agreement. Why? Because the United States told them to. Because the UK added icing to the cake by having Bojo go in early April.
And you still have people actually say that's not what happened. People will tell you that's not what happened. That never happened. There was no, of course that happened. Of course that happened. He's saying it publicly to the EU. Of course it happened. We said don't sign the deal because we got you. Now, look, I'm not saying that Zelensky is some, great, wonderful. I'm not saying that. I think he was a grifter like all the rest of them. That's what I think he's the grifter like all the rest. Do I think he knew what he was getting himself into? No. I think he fell into this. I think he thought, great, I'm president now. Life is good. I'm going to grift like all the rest of them do. This will be great. I think that's what he thought. And they were like, we're going to talk peace. Remember, he ran on peace. He just wanted to grift. The guy didn't want to do this war thing. He didn't want, I'm telling you, he didn't want that. He was like, I'm just going to grift like the rest. I'll sign some deal with Putin or whatever. I don't care. I get paid, right? Yeah, you get paid. Okay, great. I get paid. I'll sign a deal with Putin or whatever. Sign a deal with Putin or whatever. And then the Americans and the Brits came and said, no. Brother, we got you. We got you. No worries. And he went, really? Yeah, don't do it. We're way richer than the Russians are. And he was like, that's true. You can grift way more for us. And all those people around were like, hey, wait a minute. You can make a deal with the Americans and the Brits. They got way more cash than the Russians got. Hey, we've grifted off these dudes for a long time. And if we just play our cards right, we could probably stay in power forever too. And they won't say anything. You're like, that's a great idea. And they went with the Americans and the British. And they didn't listen to Kissinger. Because Kissinger said, being our ally is fatal. They didn't listen to him. And they got greedy. And now that's where they are. So, yes. Mike says, this guy's very full of himself as he is only voice of knowledge and reason. He is not that good, or many nations would have done what he said. Hubris, angry that he was not listened to. Well, I think the last part, he is angry that he wasn't listened to, because he's right, Mike. They didn't listen because the countries are the countries have hubris, not him. Well, he might have it too, but the countries do. You said it yourself, right? Biden did. It's true. Absolutely did. He's full of himself because he's right. Right? He's just right. He's not the only, he is the only voice of knowledge and reason in this. Who else is saying this? But if you look, you do your homework, you'll find everything he says is correct. Everything's correct. Nations make mistakes constantly, right? Look at our state, Mike. We live in New York. All we do is make mistakes. All we do is make mistakes. Constantly, again and again and again. We make mistakes. We do things that are insanely stupid, make no sense, demonstrably bad, and we do it again and again and again. We've been doing it for what, 30 years now? And maybe more. I don't know. I made that up number. Maybe 20, 30, whatever. Surely decades. We've been doing. You've been with me, Mike. You've been watching it happen. Am I full of myself because I'm correct? Maybe I don't care. Maybe I have hubris too, but I was right. Everything I said about New York State, and I got documents. I was right on every single policy, every single time. I'm sorry, I was not. There was one. I was wrong on how bad bail reform would be. I did not think it would be as bad as it was. I thought it would be not as bad. Yes, I thought it would be not as bad. So that one I was off. All the rest I was 100% correct. Since 2017, maybe I got hubris too. I don't care, but I was still right. And he's right. Stuff's all right. You're mad at him because you don't believe him. You don't like what he's saying. That's what you're mad. You're mad because you don't like what he's saying. He's still right though. John says, Poland stopped Russia at the gates of war in 1920. Yes, and pushed back. True, but I'm not. Do you count that as a victory? Did they conquer Russia? I look at that as maybe. I could see it. John, I could see it. I was thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe I could see it. Maybe I'm off on that one. I could see it. Yes, maybe. I could see that. Yeah, maybe. Roy says, Mike's right. The guy is knowledgeable and experienced, but wisdom's the real question. What's happening now is nothing but bad. He's wiser than the guys now. Mike goes, Larry, facts correct? Yes. Policy conclusion, not so much. What was the other policy you should have done? Not have a war with Ukraine. That was the right policy. Of Ukraine and Russia, I'm sorry. No, Larry, you don't push hubris like him. I'm too often correct. We both admit each other's ideas exist and may be correct. I guess. I don't know. I just see him as he's saying we shouldn't have had this war
to Ukraine and explain. And he has recently, and if your security is in the hands of.
And he's saying America pushes its empire on the world. It does. He's saying America controls European policy. It does. He's saying America could have stopped this war if it wanted to. It could have. He's saying this war should not happen. It shouldn't have. He's saying American hubris going around the world is making people not like America. It's true. I don't know where he's wrong. And his policy is don't do that. That sounds
Boris Johnson,
like right
God help us
policy
all.
to me.
Keith Starmer turns out to be even worse. It's unimaginable, but it is true. Boris Johnson has explained, and you can look it up on
This
the
guy's
website,
nodding his
that
head
what's at
yes.
stake here is Western hegemony, not Ukraine, Western hegemony.
Correct. This is why I said Ukraine shouldn't fight this war. Because the sad part is there are many actual Americans who actually care about Ukraine. You can see it. They're not just doing Slava Ukraine. They actually care about Ukraine. They don't want it to fail. There are a lot of Americans who actually do care. That's true. Who actually give money over there, who go over there. You guys know I've been on Dylan Burns' show more than once. Dylan Burns literally went over there to be a wartime reporter. I mean, there are Americans who actually care. The American government does not care at all. That's the distinction. There are many Americans who honestly care and give a damn and care about democracy and care about Ukraine and care about all those things. And many of them do. That's true. The American government does not, will not, never did, never does, won't. It will just be about Western or American hegemony. That's what it will always be about.
Bill and I met at the Vatican with a group in the spring of 2022, where we wrote a document explaining nothing good can come out of this war for Ukraine. Negotiate now, because anything that takes time will mean massive amounts of deaths,
Yes.
risk of nuclear escalation, and likely loss of the war.
Yes. You're saying his policies are wrong, Roy and Mike. He literally said, "Don't do this. You're gonna and I've already expressed to you there are about 1 million casualties. We count both sides. About 1 million casualties, give or take 200,000 dead. We don't know how many exactly, but around that. About 900,000 wounded. Again, we don't know exactly, but around those numbers. That's what? Over 1 million casualties when you count both dead and wounded. 1 million casualties. All the death and destruction. All that money wasted. For what? The same outcome.
I want to change one word from what we wrote then. Nothing was wrong in that document. And since that document, since the U.S. talked the negotiators away from the table, about 1 million Ukrainians have died or been severely wounded.
See, he thinks 1 million. I don't know if that number's right. A lot of people go to high. I mean, maybe it's true. The problem is we won't know for a while how many there are. I don't think it's 1 million. I think probably more like 500,000. That's what I think, but we don't know.
And the American senators, who are as nasty and cynical and corrupt as imaginable, say this is wonderful expenditure of our money because no Americans are dying. It's the pure proxy war. One of our senators nearby me, Blumenthal, says this out loud.
Yep.
Mitt Romney says this out loud. It's best money America can spend. No Americans are dying. It's unreal. Now, just to bring us up to yesterday, this failed. This project failed. The idea of the project was that Russia would fold its hand.
Yep.
The idea all along was Russia can't resist, as Zbigniew Brzezinski explained in 1997.
The Russian economy, while not doing great, has survived far better than anyone thought it had. And one of the biggest reasons is Russia is basically a massive gas station. It's an oil producer, right? So and it has tons of minerals. So the world needs what Russia has. The world is going to get it. Just because America says we're going to sanction you, whatever stupidity that we say, sanctions are stupid. They've always been stupid. They still are stupid. They never work. They're insanely dumb. But that's fine. We did it anyway. We're going to sanction a country that has insane amounts of oil, the third largest oil producer, and huge chunks of minerals that the world needs. We're going to sanction them and stop them from trading. Never going to happen. That's an the Indians were like, thank you. Oh my God. The Indians literally said, we'll take it and we'll just raise the price and we'll sell it. And that's what India did. He said, no, we'll buy your stuff. Well, America said, no, we don't give a shit what America says. We're India. We don't care. We don't care. Let America say whatever. We're not part of NATO. We don't care what America says. We are going to go. We'll buy all your stuff. And India started buying all of Russia's stuff and said, now we're going to mark it up and sell it ourselves. India made a killing. China said, oh, you could do that. We do that too. So China took it. And they said, well, America doesn't like it. China said, we're not China. We don't care what America thinks. And they just took the stuff. And worst part, EU still buying oil directly. The EU is saying Russia's evil, Russia's terrible, Russia's bad. 22 billion euros. 22 billion euros that Europe is now paying Russia, even though they're the worst guys in the world, they're horrible, all the stuff, all the lies they told us. Yeah, if Russia is evil, you should stop trading with them. When the Germans invaded Russia, they stopped trading because they had invaded them, so they stopped. So you could do that if you wanted to, but they don't because it's all a lie. None of it's true. If they honestly, if you honestly think Russia is going to invade Europe and take over the world, why aren't American troops and British troops and French troops there already? We put American troops in Iraq for no reason, in Afghanistan for no reason, in Vietnam for no reason, in Korea for no reason. We put them there. We won't put them in Ukraine. If it was that big of a deal, wouldn't we be there already? Or the French would be there, the British would be there, or Poles would be there. If the Poles were that afraid of the Russians, why wouldn't they have troops in Ukraine now? You know, the Polish people don't want to be part of this war. The government does. The people don't. They've been doing polling because the Polish people have been polled because the Polish government wants to go to war. They want to send their troops in there. I'm not making this up. The people are like, no, we don't want to go. Why? They're not really afraid of Russia. They know that's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's just not a thing.
The Americans thought we had the upper hand. We're going to win because we're going to bluff them. They're not really going to fight. They're not really going to mobilize. The nuclear option of cutting them out of SWIFT, that's going to do them in.
Well, SWIFT is the monetary system.
Economic sanctions, that's going to do them in. The HIMARS, that's going to do them in. The ATACMS, the F-16s. Honestly, I've listened.
Everything he's saying is true, and we heard this through the mainstream media all day long. We heard it all day long.
Listened to this for 70 years. I've listened to it as semi-understanding, I'd say, for about 56 years. They speak nonsense every day. My country.
Every day.
My government. This is so familiar to me. Completely familiar. I begged the Ukrainians, and I had a track record with the Ukrainians. I advised the Ukrainians. I'm not anti-Ukrainian, I'm pro-Ukrainian completely.
Phil says, Javier and Malay say it's easy to be a prostitute with someone else's butt. That's what we're doing in Ukraine. He's not wrong. Malay is correct. That's an accurate statement. Very, very easy when it's someone else's.
I said, save your lives, save your sovereignty, save your territory, be neutral. Don't listen to the Americans.
Yes.
I repeated to them the famous adage of Henry Kissinger, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Okay, so let me repeat that for Europe. To be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal.
And we are destroying Europe right now. We are doing that. We're destroying Europe right now. That's why the Germans are like, maybe we should go on our own. That's why the AfD is even a thing in Germany. The AfD is not pro-American, right? I know Elon Musk thinks they are for some silly reason. They're not. The AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, is not pro-American. It is pro-Germany. It's Germany first. It's Deutschland über alles. That's what it is, right? That's what it is. I just got canceled in freaking German YouTube. Anyway, but yes, that's what it is. It is all about that. It is not about America. They're not pro-American. Somehow, I guess Elon Musk thinks they are, but they're not.
So let me now finalize a few words about Trump. Trump does not want.
See, that bothered me right there. The guy said, literally, please don't. TDS exists in Europe too. Trump derangement syndrome exists in Europe too. And these are the leaders of Europe. Why? Why? You know, just why? So stupid.
The losing hand. This is why it is more likely than not this war will end, because Trump and President Putin will agree to end the war.
Yes.
If Europe does all its great warmongering, it doesn't matter. The war is ending. So
that guy just nodded his head and did this. That guy is European. He's like, you're right. We have no power. That guy gets it. America and Russia will decide when this war ends. And you might say again, Larry, it's unfair. What about Ukraine? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that's how it works.
Get it out of your system. Please tell your colleagues. It's over. And it's over because Trump doesn't want to carry a loser. That's it.
He's not wrong.
It's not some great morality. He doesn't want to carry a loser. This is a loser. The one that will be saved by the negotiations taking place right now is Ukraine.
And this is the piece that I want to bring up. A lot of people get mad at Trump because they think that, well, he doesn't really care about Ukraine. That's probably true. I don't care. And I don't mean to be mean. I'm being realistic. I don't care why Trump wants to end the war. That's irrelevant to me. I'm just happy he wants to end the war, so end the war. I don't care why. And it seems clear to me, unless I'm utterly misreading him, it seems clear to him, everyone's around. Trump actually wants to end this war. Biden did not want to end this war. In fact, Biden made this war. Harris would never have ended this war. Trump actually wants to end the war. I don't care why. I hope it's because he's a great guy and loves Ukrainians, and what I hope that's true. I don't think it is, and I don't care. As long as he ends this war, I'm good, and I will give him credit for ending the war if he does it. Biden would have never ended this war. Harris would have never ended this war. If Trump can do it, and he seems more convinced than I am that he can do it this year. I've said it before, I really hope he can. If anybody can end this war this year, it is Trump, because Trump is a deal maker, and I hope he can do it. But I don't know if he can. This is not an easy task. As you can see, I've been saying it for months how hard it's going to be, and no one believed me. And I said it's going to be hard to do. But again, if Trump is a deal maker, if he can do it, he'll do it, right? Roy says Trump wants to end the war so he can say end of the war, but agreed, done is done. Yes, agreed. I think you're probably right. I honestly think he does want a Nobel Peace Prize. I think he wants one. Good. Give the Israelis an end to their war. Give the Ukrainians an end to their war. Take the Peace Prize. I'm not going to complain. Take it. Do both. Do both. Take it. Absolutely. Dave goes, there's no altruism in Putin and Trump. Yes, and I don't care. You're right, Dave, and I don't care. Yes, and I don't care. Mike says, no, Trump wants to end it by positioning U.S. futures with minerals and strategic position. The deals further cement power of American empire with strong leaders needed for global stability. That's partially correct. He doesn't actually care about the mineral piece. The reality of it is a big chunk of those minerals are now under Russian control. He's doing the minerals so he can appease the military-industrial complex. If you remember, he wasn't talking about minerals before. That wasn't a thing before. He had to figure that out once he started fighting, right? What he thought, and he said it, I could do it with one phone call. He wasn't thinking minerals, dude. That's not true. He wasn't thinking that. His people weren't thinking that. They were thinking they could just do it. Mineral rights was not the thing. Then when he realized, wow, okay, like this is big money. The military complex is here, and the pressure they're going to give me to do this is insane. I got to find an answer. Then he thought, or his team, either one, again, he gets credit either way, but the Tim or his team said, let's do minerals. We could do that. They'll do the mining rights. They'll make a ton of money. They won't fight you. They'll let you end this war. And he was like, mineral rights, done. Mineral rights and positioning was secondary. That's what it is now. That was not what it was about at all. And a strategic position is irrelevant. That was Greenland was strategic, but that's not Ukraine. Two separate things. He's going to lose strategic position in Ukraine. He's going to lose, Mike. You're going to see troops that are now in like Estonia, troops that are in like Romania. They're leaving. That's going to be part of the deal. I'm saying it publicly right now so you hear me. That's going to be part of the deal. Part of the deal is American troops leave the border states like Estonia and Romania, like that. We are losing strategic position. You're utterly wrong on this. And you don't know now. It's fine. Wait, when this deal is made, you will see I'm correct. We are losing it. Those people, those troops we have are going to be gone. That isn't the issue. He goes, the deals further cement power of America. Dude, we're giving everything up. There's no power here. This is just stuff you're saying. Please show me how this makes us stronger in our empire. The Europeans are becoming independent. Again, I don't want the empire, so I'm happy it's going away. The Europeans are spending more money. The French are going up to 3.5 or 4% of the GDP for their military now. The Germans are going up to 3%, 4% of the GDP. That's not American empire. That's them defending themselves. That's them getting ready for America to bail out of NATO, which if Trump can, he will. If Trump can bail out of NATO, he will. So they're going to be gone, right? So that's not at all. I mean, I don't know where you're getting this from. There's no evidence of this, right? The minerals came after. This is when he realized he did something to keep us happy here. So he made that up. And not just that. Remember, a chunk of that's in Russia. He'll make a deal with the Russians too. I'd keep Putin happy. Remember Putin? I told you this last year. I said Putin was talking about reparations. Remember that? Putin talked about reparations. Why? He wanted something from this too. He wasn't going to get reparations. He's not going to get reparations. But he talked about it. I told you that was his negotiating tool. People laughed at that. I was like, you're not getting it. He's saying it so he can get something too. And his will be mining rights. He'll have minerals deal too. We will have a deal with the Russians and the Ukrainians for mining rights. The Russians will keep Putin happy. Us will keep the industrial happy. We'll keep them happy. Our positioning in Europe will go away. We have about 100,000 troops, in Europe, give or take. We'll have probably less than 50 within 3 years. We'll have less than 50 within 3 years. You will see I'm correct on this. You will see it. It's how the first place they're leaving is Estonia. We don't have that many, maybe like 1,500 like that. I mean, I don't know how many. It's low. It's not even a division, right? But like Poland, we have like 10,000 or something like that. I forgot how many we have. That'll all start going away. That will all start going away. You will see it. So no, it's not true. He goes on to say 3% GDP for defense is nothing. Yes, it is. They've been less than 2%, dude. They've been less than 2%. Yeah. And let's not forget something. The GDP of the EU is 9 times that of Russia. So if the EU does 3%, Russia has to do 27% to match. Do you get what I'm saying? 3% is a lot. The EU has a GDP 9 times bigger than Russia. So it's a lot. It is absolutely a lot. So yes, absolutely. Phil's messing with the Frenchies. He says the French invest in the military. Time to invest in textiles. Miles and miles of white flags. Nicely done. Nicely done. Yes. So anyway, yeah. Let's see. He says that's not how math works. Yes, it is literally. And the EU is not military one mind. They all use NATO forces stuff. Yes, they are. Yes, they literally are. What are you talking about? Literally, that is how the math works. 2 trillion versus 19 trillion. Yes, that's literally how it works. And the Poles are going past 2% too. So yes, and those are the biggest ones, right? France, huge. Poland, huge, right? Turks are big too. Turks, I think, are over 2%, maybe even more, right? They're doing good, right? I mean, no, that's a lot. And the Russians, what are they going to? That is how it works. And the French have nukes, and so do the Brits. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, and they are one mind. Literally, they're talking all one mind. They're in the EU, they're talking right now about putting British and French and troops into Ukraine. They asked for the Germans and Poles. They said no. Germans said no. Poles said no. The Brits and the French are like, we might send some troops. Yes, they all use the same NATO rounds. A lot of their tanks are interchangeable. Not all, but some of their tanks are interchangeable. A lot of them buy the same stuff out of was it Norway or Finland? I forgot. One of those countries. I think it's Finland. Finland has a one of those Scandinavian countries. Is it Sweden? I forgot. One of the Scandinavian countries sells half of the NATO stuff, right? So they buy it out of the same place. They're buying all the rounds and stuff, all the ammunition out of the same place. So yeah, they absolutely are. I don't know, dude. It's clear. It's clear. So John says, Larry, Trump announced yesterday that we're going to be buying some new fighter jets. Is that possible to please the military industrial complex? 100%. And it's a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea. We're doing the new, is it the B-47? No, F. It's a fighter. F-47. It's a terrible idea. Why? In a world of drones, we're buying more manned fighter planes. Why? Why? We should be building the newest drones. Why would I put a pilot in a plane when it gets knocked out of the air with one miss when the guy's dead? It's a terrible idea. New fighter planes are like battleships now, right? They're battleships. I don't know why we're doing it. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. But yes, because that F-47 will be built in like 42 different states. It'll be jobs. It'll be military jobs is what it'll be. And it'll be a plane that nobody buys. It'll be useless. It's unnecessary. It's dumb. It's never, no. How are all those planes being used in the Ukraine war? They're not. They're not. Right? They just started using helicopters again. Finally. When America stopped giving them the satellites, they started using helicopters again. No, they're not. It's not a thing. It's a terrible idea. Yes, John is to appease them, and it's a terrible idea. I don't know what. Let's just build some more battleships. Why? Why would you build a battleship now? I don't know why you're even building carriers anymore. I'm not even sure why you're building carriers anymore. I mean, I guess you know what? That's not true. If your goal is to patrol the seas for pirates and stuff, carriers are amazingly powerful. And so are some of these missile destroyers. They are amazingly powerful for like stopping pirates and such. They're super powerful. But I don't know. Just seems crazy. Seems nuts. So, all righty. Dave says mutual defense clause. A member state is the victim of armed aggression on its territory. The other member state shall have towards it an obligation to aid and assistance by all means in their power in accordance with Article 51 United Nations Charter. This shall not prejudice the specific character of the security and defense. Yeah, exactly. Yes, they will have to defend each other. Of course they will. Phil says Sweden. Oh, Saab. Does Saab make it? I didn't even know that was true. Is that right? That's new. I didn't recognize that. There we go. So Saab makes it. I knew that. I knew it was someone in some country in that. Yeah, it was. Yep. Mike says you're assuming a unified, consistent economic policy across the EU. They all use the euro. What are you talking about? They literally have a united economic policy. They all use the euro. France and Brits want troops. Italy, Germany say no. Poland on defense with some offense. Sweden, Norway. I don't know, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about. They're literally, they have an EU that has economic policy. They're all on the euro except for the Brits. They're all on the euro, and the Brits are leaving freaking everything anyway, so they're on their way out. And the Brits leaving are going under. I don't know whether Brits going to send troops. I guess that to pretend they're still some kind of power or something. They're becoming a third-rate country. Their whole country's collapsing, becoming a third-rate country. I don't know where you've been watching too much Fox News. I don't know why you would think this. They clearly have a consistent economic policy. Clearly, they're deciding whether they buy from Russia or not. They're deciding on their tariffs within the EU. They're deciding tariffs at the EU level. Yes, they literally have one. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway, let me. Phil goes on and says most of our fighters are used as attack bombers. Yep, the F-15 has done more ground attacks than air superiority. Correct. Air superiority is not a thing for us anymore. It's not a thing. Yes, absolutely. Yes. All right. John says I thought you would go the route of the new fighter jets purchase being assigned at the end of the war in Ukraine is near. Maybe, right? Maybe you mean to keep them pacified? Yes, I think that is. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yes, I do think they're related. Yes, they're related. Yes, but that's the norm. Yes, I think they are related. Yes, absolutely. Is the EU also possible because they have a parliament? Correct. They have a parliament that decides what they're going to do. They literally, yes. Not just that, you can travel and work in different countries if you're a part of the EU. So even immigration is the same. Yes. If you have a passport from like Malta, you can like go to Austria and work. So, yeah. I don't know. Anyway.
Second is Europe. Your stock market's rising in recent days by the horrible news of negotiations. I know this has been met with the sheer horror in these chambers, but this is the best news that you could get. I encouraged, they don't listen to me, but I tried to reach out to some of the European leaders. Most don't want to hear anything from me at all. But I said, don't go to Kiev. Go to Moscow. Discuss with your counterparts. Are you kidding? You're Europe. You're 450 million people. You're $20 trillion economy.
20 trillion. I thought it was 19. Okay, he says 20.
You should be the main economic trading partner of Russia. It's natural links.
But they are with 22 billion in Europe.
By the way, if anyone would like to discuss how the U.S. blew up Nord Stream, I'd be happy to talk about that.
That is controversial. I didn't know that was even a thing. But yeah, he actually believes that. I don't know if that's true or not.
The Trump administration is imperialist at heart. It is great powers dominate the world.
True.
It is we will do what we want when we can. We will be better than a senescent Biden, and we'll cut our losses where we have to.
True.
There are several.
But I'm not mad at this. Now he's sounding like it's an insult to all these things for Trump. I don't think it's an insult. I think he's right. but they're all imperialistic. But again, I'll go back to the piece that a lot of people are mad about. I'm not. Trump is a deal maker. Whether you like it or not, he is. And he wants peace, and he'll get it because he'll make a deal. That's the point. And he's taking it almost like it's a bad thing. Like, no, that's a good thing. I'm glad Trump's a deal maker. And you hear me have my problems with Trump. But when it comes to ending a war, please be a deal maker. Like, please be one. And he is. As I said this last year, if anyone can end this thing, it's Trump. And people are like, what? You're supporting Trump. I'm not saying I'm supporting Trump. I'm saying if anyone can end the war, it's him, because he is transactional and a deal maker. It's just true. For this job, he's the right tool.
War zones in the world, the Middle East being another. We don't know what will happen with that. Again, if Europe had a proper policy, you could stop that war. I'll explain how. But war with China is also a possibility. So I'm not saying that we're at the new age of peace.
Yeah. Roy says, true, much disarray among our nations, but if Russia invaded another nation, Poland, etc., would drop every Euro grievance and Russia would be done. Agreed completely. That's why I don't see Russia doing it. Russia's not going to take another nation. No, I agree. They will be mad at each other, but I don't know how, but I don't know. I'm making this up. Russia decides to move through Belarus and invade Poland or whatever. I can't even imagine that, but say it happens. Russia's finished. And I mean finished. Russia would have to use nuclear weapons. I'm not even joking. And Putin knows that. He knows that. There is no way Russia survives that, because China's not going to get involved in that. They wouldn't. You are right, Roy. China's going to be like, great, we'll send all our soldiers to fight. And that's not going to happen. China's going to be like, oh, boy, too bad you did that. Oh, well. There's no way China's getting involved in that because they have too much cash going to Europe. All them EVs China's selling, that's all in Europe. They're not getting rid of those. They're not getting rid of all them EVs. That's not going to happen. China goes, oh, well, good luck with that, Russia. That's what China does. You are correct. That is exactly correct. If he actually did it, he would have to use nuclear weapons, because literally there would be your EU tanks eventually pushing through, because what would happen is the amount of initial aerial damage that will be done will be massive. Will be massive. Aerial damage, massive. And eventually it would just be attacks eventually to get right through. It would take time, but eventually they would literally march on Moscow at one point. That would happen. They'd outgun just too much. In fact, they wouldn't march on Moscow. That's wrong. They would be on their way to Moscow, and Russia would surrender. Russia would say, we're going to surrender, and if you don't accept our surrender, we'll nuke you. That's what would actually happen. What would happen, Roy, is Russians would have initial success because of surprise. That initial success only because of surprise. Then immediately a switch back, just like with the Ukraine war. Or the Russians had initial success, and the Ukrainians pushed them back to the lines they were there. Same thing would happen. They had initial success. Europeans would push them all the way back. Once the Russians recognized, oh my God, we're screwed. We cannot survive on this. The Chinese aren't going to help us. The Americans aren't going to stop. If anything, it's going to keep giving money to the Europeans, keep beating us up because they hate us. So accept peace, or we're going to nuke you. That's what would happen. And the European would accept peace. That's what would happen.
But we are in a very different kind of politics right now. And Europe should have a foreign policy. And not just a foreign policy of Russophobia, a foreign policy that is a realistic foreign policy that understands Russia's situation, that understands Europe's situation, that understands what America is and what it stands for, that tries to avoid Europe being invaded by the United States, because it's not impossible that America will just land troops in Danish territory. I'm not joking. And I don't think they're joking. And Europe needs a foreign policy, a real one. Not a, yes, we'll bargain with Mr. Trump and meet him halfway. You know what that will be like? Give me a call afterwards. Please don't have American officials as head of Europe. Have European officials. Please have a European foreign policy. You're going to be living with Russia for a long time. So please negotiate with Russia.
So let me now end it here. That was a good one. I hope that made sense for you guys. I want to keep going off this now. A couple of things. I want to go off what he talked about and then go for the future. The first thing is, what he's saying is Europe should have its own foreign policy. Now, why is it even possible? Because they have a parliament. And Mike, they already have an economic policy. It's already there. They have economic policies, right? They already have that already. So he's saying have a foreign policy, right? Act as you do. That's what he's saying. Act as you do. with other things. And he's right. That's what Europe should do. I don't want America to be an empire. It's not a good idea for us to be an empire. It's not helpful. We spend lots of money. We go into lots of debt and our people get killed. And then in America, we don't solve our own problems here. And we use the problems outside to divide us. We use the problems outside to ignore the problems we have internally. We have a massive wealth gap in America, and we're worried about whether Ukraine has problems or not. I don't care. I don't mean to be mean. I want a war to stop, but I don't care. Not my issue. We have problems here. We have issues with people not being happy here, people being broke here, and we're worried about how much money we can send overseas. I don't care. Let it go. Let them do it. I don't care. Let them have their own foreign policy. America can be great without an empire. We don't need an empire. It's not required, and we can still be great. What we should be is what Reagan said. We didn't do, but what Reagan said. He said we should be that shining city on a hill. He was right. We should be that. And that shining city on the hill doesn't bomb people. It's not what it does. It's a beacon for everyone else to emulate, a beacon for everyone else to want to come to, a beacon for everyone to say, this is what we should all be like. That's what it should be. We are currently not that. We are currently being an empire and the world's bullies. He said it. He's right. Now, I know some of you think he's not right. You're wrong. He's correct. It's demonstrably true. I would ask any of you who tell me he's wrong to please show me evidence either that he's wrong or that you have a better policy. I'm happy to see it. You know I am. I'm happy to see it, but I won't because it's not true. I'll get people, I'm mad because he's mean. I'll get a lot of that. I hear it all the time. They get it about me. Larry, why do you think you're so right? Because I am, but it's fine. You can be mad at me if you want to. Whatever you want. Doesn't matter. I will be proven correct as he was. Yes, absolutely. Phil says we don't need to buy America. We have plenty of America at home. True. Lots of America at home. True. Yes. But I want to go with what's going to happen to Ukraine. Ukraine is in big trouble. And it's all because of starting this stupid war. Right? It's all because of this stupid war. If they wouldn't have fought this war, things would be better for Ukraine. Right? That's the issue. Hold on. Pablo says, plus we've been funding this damn war. Yes. He says, I think you should be running for president. I'd vote for you. Oh, Pablo, thank you so much. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I appreciate that. But my point here being, I do appreciate that. My point here being Ukraine's in trouble because it has a population that is crashing. It is crashing. Its young people have left in droves. How can it defend itself? It can't. Why do you think they did not lower the recruitment age? The lowest you can recruit somebody in Ukraine, I think it's 24, 20 something, right? Usually it's 18 to 24 is where it's most of the young men going out fighting. They couldn't do it. Why? They don't have enough of them. If they had their 18 to 24-year-olds fighting, they'd have almost no 18 to 24-year-olds left in the country. I'm not making that up. If you think I'm making up, do your own homework. That's true. That's accurate. They have a problem. So now what's the next step? This is what they want to do. They do it and they fight the war and the casualties they took. Remember, they have around 500,000. He says 1 million. I'm not sure I buy that, but it doesn't matter. Somewhere around between 500,000 and 1 million casualties, whatever that number is. That's a whole lot of people. And you only have 25 million people in your country. There's more Texans than there are Ukrainians. I'm not joking. There's more Texans than there are Ukrainians. And could you imagine if Texas literally took, imagine if Texas took 1 million casualties, 1 in 25 people. Imagine if that's true. He says 1 million. I'm not sure it's 1 million. I feel like we only have, but it's fine. Whatever. 500,000 casualties, whatever. 1 in 50. 1 in 50 people in Texas was a casualty, killed or wounded. Wow. Devastating. They're in trouble. If they don't get guarantees, no one's going to come back. Then if people come back and deals be made so they can rebuild their country. The longer this war goes on, the worse it will be. The longer this war goes on, the more President Putin takes. You might go, well, the Russians are taking damage too. They are, but they just gained 5 million people from the territories they took. They just gained a bunch of resources from the territory they took. So the territory they took makes up for the war. Now you might go, but Larry, those people died. I agree, they shouldn't have. But yes, that's an issue. So Roy goes on to say, Russian troops had to be forced to take on a defenseless Ukraine. They're not taking on well-armed troops backed by top tech intel, high-end material, and most important, air power. Russian troops had to be forced to take on a defenseless Ukraine. They're not taking on well-armed troops backed by top tech. Yes, 100%. Yeah, okay, that's what you meant. Yes, it's true. Ukraine did have, prior to about a couple of weeks ago, a lot more high-tech surveillance. That was actually Ukraine's strength, is that American surveillance. They don't have that anymore. So they have some European surveillance, which is not bad, but isn't as good as American, which is why the Russians now are using helicopters again. The Russians couldn't use helicopters and much of their air power, to your point, because American intel will tell them where it is, and they shoot it down with ground-to-air missiles. That would happen often, or sometimes even drone strikes against helicopters. But now that you don't have that anymore, they aren't able to find out where all the bases are as easy as they used to. So now Russians can bring their attack helicopters up to the front line now. And literally one attack helicopter can eradicate Ukrainian armor, right? They're made for that. Their attack helicopters are made to destroy armor. They're armor-destroying helicopters. So they just come up and eradicate the Ukrainian stuff. And the problem with that is most of the time when Ukrainian vehicles get hit, there's a high survival rate of the crew. So the armored fighting vehicle, the AFV or the IFV, if it's infantry fighting vehicle, gets actually blasted, right? And then the people can escape and run away. That happens often, or used to happen often. But those attack helicopters, they blow the whole thing to pieces and then lay down fire on top of it. So there's hardly any survivors. So it's terrible. Now, the Russians were okay with that in the past because what people don't recognize is a lot of these, you see the casualties like, oh, they lost all these tanks. The problem is whoever controls the land afterwards recovers the vehicles and then rebuilds them and then puts them back out again, repairs and puts them back out again. So you actually can lose a vehicle 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I'm not joking, right? It gets hit by something, immobilized, the troops escape, the guys take over the land, grab that, put it back together, send it back out again, rinse, repeat. So that can actually happen. So yeah, absolutely. So, all righty. John goes on to say, oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. The Russians themselves, a big chunk of their people are non-ethnic Russians. A lot of them are. Obviously, most of them are still ethnic Russians, but a huge chunk aren't. So yeah, absolutely. So Phil says the Hind helicopter is terrifying. Yes, absolutely. Mike goes on to say, yep, it's an anti-tank chopper, very well designed. Yes, you're right, Mike. It slaughters. When they first started fighting the war, the Russians put the helicopters up, and the American, javelins, right? American javelins would knock them out of the sky. One javelin takes that Hind right out. And they were like, okay, we're not putting them up anymore. Well, javelins aren't there anymore. They ran out of them. Americans aren't giving them anymore. There's no more javelins. There's hardly any. There's hardly any javelins left, right? So not really using them anymore. They have any of them. They're sitting outside of Kiev, right? Trying to knock down any planes that go over Kiev. So they don't have those anymore, right? So now they're like, oh, you don't have that stuff? Oh, over they go. Javelins or Stingers? Yes, correct. Yes, thank you. Mike says Trump did restart. Oh, is that right? I did not know that. Good. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, okay. I didn't know that. Thank you, Mike. Didn't recognize that. So, all righty. John says, Larry, I do think the fighter jet purchase is a sign of the deal being made for the end of the war in Ukraine. And jokingly, what if Musk builds robots to put in the new fighter jets? Not jokingly, good idea. The humanoid robots will be coming out in mass into the business world this year. I'm not joking. This year. Give it 5 years, they'll be in the home. You'll literally have a robot in your house folding your laundry and stuff like that. But within 5 years, maybe within 3, but surely within 5. This year, you will have robots. And if I'm not mistaken, I think BMW signed a deal with them. I think BMW is going to have. BMW has several plants in the South. They're going to have physical humanoid robots doing the work. Yes. So the robot's already coming. So that's not a joke. If that's the deal, I'm fine with that. Put a robot in there. But why would you even bother? I just build a drone. Make a drone. Why do we have fighters anymore? Make drones. The world is drones now. Why do we have the Chinese now are trying to build out ground troop drones. They haven't done it yet, but they are in the process of trying to build out ground troop drones that can act as infantry. That is their goal, right? Their goal is to make an actual army of drones, like the Star Wars, Clone Wars, and the drones. That's their goal. They haven't done it yet, but that's their goal. If they do that, that's the right answer. Why would I? Of course I would. Absolutely, of course I would. Mike says, yes, the Stinger isn't the Stinger the one that Stinger attacks the tank, right? God, it's been a while. Yeah. Anyway, yes. Anyway, that's my whole point. Guys, please click the button known as like. I know I went long tonight. I know I did. Please share, repost if you haven't already. Please do so. If you haven't followed me, please follow me. It does matter. Every follow does matter. Please do so. Thank you for all the rants. If you want to really support me, you can. If you like the stuff I'm doing, if it makes sense to you, if you think you're getting something special, become a member, right? $49 per month. $49 per month. This is better. This is better than a movie. And you get it almost every night. Not too shabby. And guess what? If I'm wrong, you get to laugh at me in like a couple months. You won't. But you get to laugh at me if you want to. Otherwise, I'll just do another I Told You So show. I do so many of them. But no matter what, click the like button. Click it now. It does matter. Please do so. I'm going to let you guys go. And what I'm going to ask you to put in the comment section when this is over, Mike goes way better than Snow White. Yes, true. Nice one. Very nice one. Very nice one. I like that. Yes, that's a very good one. I do like that. Yeah. John says, javelins, anti-tank, stingers, anti. Oh, is that what it is? Javelins, anti-tank, stingers, anti-air. Okay, there we go. Yes. There we go. Yes. I forget which one is which. I always do. I should probably know that. I should know that. Yeah. I remember carrying a mule around in 1986. So, I mean, I'm kind of out of it in this one. I remember when we had AT4s. They don't have that anymore either. So anyway, back in the day, I'll let that go. Anyway, what I'm asking you, if you don't mind, please put in the comment what you think about the Ukrainian war, your opinion, what you think about the Ukrainian war. Good, bad, going to end, not going to end, whatever you think about the Ukrainian war, please put that in the comments. I will see you. I will not be on tomorrow, but I will be on Monday. I will see you all